And we realize that although recovery is unique for each individual, it always begins the same, with a call to seek help and learn more about recovery and beginning a new life.
310-2600.
If you've been injured, it doesn't matter if you were hit by a big truck, a smart car, or anything in between. I'm Spencer Callahan. I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA 21-12671. Offices in Baton Rouge.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge.
Let we go!
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Jacob Hester and T-bob Hebert.
Yeah!
Off the Bench with Hester and T-bob.
Hey, P, they said I gotta come off the bench.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-bob. Yo, yo, yo.
What's up, people? Welcome in to a Monday edition of Off the Bench. No Hester today, no T-bob today. I am Mario Jerez, and I am usually the producer of this fine program. Today, I am on the other side of the room, and I will be the host. It will be this way today through Wednesday. T-bob is out all week. Hester will be back on Thursday. Excited for Hester to come back and add to the football topics that we're going to discuss today. As I said, me, myself, and I on this side of the room today. Casey Gaines is on the audio board. Casey's become my consistent kind of backup producer. He's always ready at the drop of a hat to come in and work. So shout out to Casey, who also held it down for Taylor last week when he was hosting, if I'm not mistaken. Taylor Sharp is here as well. He's getting us on YouTube. He'll also be the de facto co-host for today. Will be helping me out a lot. Will be contributing a lot. And we have a fun show coming up today. We will have weekend winners coming up at 8 a.m., keeping in tradition with the normal Monday show here on OTB. We'll recap the weekend in sports and elsewhere coming up at 8 a.m. We'll also talk to Carter Bryant coming up at 8:30. I like having Carter on whenever I host. He's always fun. He's always full of energy. He's always excited for college football. So I thought he would make a good guest today as well. We'll talk to Carter at 8:30, and we'll have a new edition of Spread Lines with Hold the Mayo coming up at 9:15. Hold the Mayo looks like he had a fun weekend. He had some people over Saturday night. He watched the fights. Apparently some important fights. I'm not big into MMA, UFC, all that stuff, but it was a significant event Saturday night. We talked about it a little bit on this show. We'll recap it with Hold the Mayo coming up at 9:15. And as always, we'll wrap up the show with some Ask the Bench. So please talk to me in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat. I say that without even having it pulled up. Bad job by me. But if you guys are nice today, if you guys are nice in the chat, you can control a lot of the show today and really all week. I want it to be interactive every time I host, and today is no exception. Shout out to everybody who's already in the chat: Brian Burgess, Bilbo Baggins, Daniel Basham. Always appreciate you guys. And for what it's worth, you guys have been really nice recently. You haven't always been nice to me, but recently, whenever I've hosted this show, you guys have been nice. So please give me all the interaction in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat. Without any further ado, let's get the show started, and let's start it how we always do, by empowering our producers, asking them how they're doing. Like I said, Casey, starting with you. Always appreciate you, man. You always hold it down in my spot whenever I have to come to this side of the room. How are we doing this morning?
Doing good. Not as good as last weekend whenever I was chilling out in New Orleans, but definitely a solid weekend.
I heard about that. You made it out to a concert, huh? Had a little bit of fun?
Yeah, moshed a little bit. Had a bit of fun.
Nice. I got to make it out to one of those with you, man. We've been friends. We've been coworkers for a long time. It'd be cool to get a little R&R outside of work.
Yes, sir.
That sounds like a good time. Shout out to Casey. Shout out to Taylor as well. Taylor, how's it going, man? How's life? How's the wife? How's the dog? How was your weekend?
Man, we're going good. 3 o'clock this morning, though, all the power went out. Apparently, some dude hit like a power pole out in Walker. It kind of blew out all the power, but came back on like right as I started getting dressed this morning. So my shoes match, which is something I was worried about. Looking a little pink in this light, but we're going to see if we can fix that during the break. But overall, man, doing really, really good.
Man, what's wrong with people? Like when you drive, whether you're on substances or you're just driving erratically, like there are consequences other than yourself. Like I can't believe people are so selfish and do stuff like that. And this is just a situation of power going out. Obviously, it could be a lot worse. We'll talk about Kirby Smart and what's going on with his program in a little while. But I can't believe the selfishness of some people, Taylor, that's horrible.
Yeah, well, and he was apparently coming back into town at like 3:30 this morning, so I'm not going to judge the guy, but you could pretty much assume what he was up to. But look, we got through it. It was fine. It only lasted about two and a half hours, so we're good to go.
Good. Well, I'm glad everybody is okay, and I'm glad everybody is here with us today. Monday edition of Off the Bench. As I said, T-Bob and Hester both out through Wednesday at least. Hester will be back on Thursday, but we have plenty to discuss before we get there because today is the last day of July. Tomorrow starts August, and that's significant because starting this week, we will have some form of football every week until February. The Hall of Fame game is this week. I know Taylor's really hyped up. The Jets versus the Browns. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is not going to play. I'm sure Deshaun Watson is not going to play. I'm sure it's not going to be a very entertaining affair, to be honest with you guys. But if I can keep it real for a second, I don't think anybody really watches the Hall of Fame game. They definitely don't watch all four quarters of it. Some people like to bet on it. I did that when I had the show here with Musso. I know Jimmy and Charlie will have you covered there with their guests that like to do that kind of stuff. But to me, preseason in general at this point kind of feels like a chore. But the fact that it's here is really exciting. And I'm really excited to watch actual football with actual pads and actual professional football players this week in 4 days. Like, that's got to be exciting.
Yeah, dude, I'm ready to go. I'm one of the people that does watch all four quarters of the Hall of Fame
You're
game.
going to watch all 4 quarters of Browns and Jets.
I mean, is there another game I can switch to?
There is not.
Yeah, typically I do just because it's the only one on. I mean, Browns and Jets, not exactly riveting stuff, but I'm one of those guys that's just going to tune in regardless.
I'll feel you. I'll definitely have it on in the background. And like I said, I'll be happy that there is football happening, but I'm not going to have a full breakdown of the game for you on Off the Bench the next day. But it is exciting. It is here this week, and that means college football is getting close too. Week 0 on deck in about 4 weeks. The games start on August 26th, and I thought in this first segment while we're chopping it up, we could see exactly what is on deck for Week 0 because you have several games that Saturday. Some of them may pique your interest. And looking at the list here, I know there are 7 games, at least 7 games that are being featured. You got Navy versus Notre Dame. That game is in Ireland. Imagine how fun of a trip that would be. Just the fact that the game's in Ireland makes that game interesting for me. Notre Dame this season, I think, has high expectations. I think they gave Freeman a lot of grace being in year 1. They had some low points. They definitely had some high points as well. But possibly a statement game for Notre Dame here, playing against Navy in the triple option in Ireland. Is that a game you're looking forward to, Taylor?
Yeah, only because it's Notre Dame and it's in Ireland. I'm typically not a huge fan of like these long overseas games just because I feel like the interest isn't there. But like for me as a viewer, yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm ready to see what Ireland does. I imagine they're going to roll out the red carpet for Notre Dame.
As a college football fan, that's got to be on your bucket list, though, right? Making that trip. I know LSU's band has made that trip before. I don't think LSU has played in Ireland, at least not recently, maybe back in the day. But making that trip, you know, getting some beers, taking in all the culture over there in Ireland. I know Jimmy and Charlie have made that trip before for this game, but that's definitely something I want to do in my lifetime. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And if not that, like at least something, you know, like I always like the Pinstripe Bowl they used to do at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
Like something wacky like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Ireland trip, but yeah, something I'd like to do.
Some form of international football would be a lot of fun. You got 6 more games other than Navy and Notre Dame that weekend. Texas, El Paso, visiting Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State is my team going into the season. We're all supposed to pick a random team going into the year. I don't think T-Bob, Hester, and Taylor have formally introduced theirs yet, but mine is Jacksonville State. And the reason is they played Nichols last year. That was the first college football game I ever broadcasted in English. And I was just really impressed by Jacksonville State that day, man. Rich Rodriguez is the head coach over there, the king of the zone read, a very influential coach in the history of college football. They're making that jump into D1. I'm excited to watch Jacksonville State. I know nobody else is, so I won't make Taylor comment on the game, and I won't make y'all listen to anything more concerning that game. But we also have Ohio at San Diego State. Shout out to Hester. That's his school. Not really random because he likes to proclaim kind of his love and respect for San Diego State. That game is 7 p.m. on Saturday, August 26th. You also have UMass at New Mexico State. UMass considered to be one of the worst programs in college football. They have been for a while. New Mexico State was there. They're somewhat on the up and up, but that game's not going to draw a lot of interest from a lot of people. Hawaii at Vanderbilt, 7:30 on the SEC network. That game will draw my interest. We know Vanderbilt went to Hawaii last year, and they won. They covered. They kind of dominated the Rainbow Warriors in that game. So I'm excited to see what Vanderbilt does to start this season. I think they crushed their win total. I think they could even flirt with the winning season, Taylor. I like what Clark Lee has going on over there. Would you be pumped to see Vanderbilt's first game against Hawaii this season?
Yeah, because we know how hard it is to win at Hawaii. That is a long flight, and you go look, like, they have one of the best home winning percentages in the country just because of where they're located. Vanderbilt took care of them easily. I don't see why they're not going to do that again. So it may not be the most competitive game, but like you said, Clark Lee 5-7 his first year at Vanderbilt, which it may not sound like much, but Vanderbilt is used to winning 2 games a year. That is a lot. So yeah, I think he's got a little bit cooking out there in Nashville. Also, I had no idea we were supposed to pick a random team. However, I already have mine. It's a team I've been cheering for since 2020. It's Coastal Carolina.
Coastal Carolina, post Grayson McCall, right? He's
back.
He's coming back.
He's, in my opinion, the most underrated quarterback in college football.
All right.
I think the guy's phenomenal.
All right, now I know why you're on him. Coastal Carolina. They've definitely had some success over the years, man. We'll see if they can flirt with another undefeated season this year. We also have San Jose State at USC, 8 p.m. on the Pac-12 network. A San Jose State upset would be lovely. I doubt that happens, but maybe it's at least an entertaining game. I expect USC's defense to be bad again this year, man. I don't care what recruits they have. I don't care how much improved they're supposed to be. I'm not going to believe that Alex Grinch can field an elite defense until I see it. So maybe a test for USC from the very first game there. And then you have Florida International at Louisiana Tech to round out the action. First Saturday of college football. That game is at 9 p.m. Week 0 coming up in just a few weeks. So we have preseason football this week. We have week 0 coming up in 4 weeks. It's the last day of July. All this should put you in a good mood. It puts me in a good mood as a football fan. So that's all really exciting. If you want to get even more particular, I could point out that LSU and Florida State will take place in 34 days. And I thought to round out this first segment, we could do a quick little vibe check ahead of that game, Taylor, because as it sits, LSU is a 2.5-point favorite on DraftKings. If you can get LSU minus 2.5, less than a field goal, I think that's pretty good value. But I would feel pretty good about taking LSU to cover, at least on the surface. I know Florida State's really hyped up coming into the year as well. I know they beat LSU last year in New Orleans. Now the game's closer to their backyard in Orlando. But just on the surface, and we'll talk more about this game throughout the show and obviously in the weeks leading up, but I would feel pretty good about taking LSU to cover that game.
Yeah, I would too. Now, having said that, I think this is going to be a very, very close game, but I think it's one of those 6, 7, 8-point victories maybe in favor of the LSU Tigers. So, yeah, taking them at minus 2.5, I have no problem doing that.
All right, 34 days away. Taylor's pretty much in agreement with me. We'll, like I said, we'll break that game down leading into the contest. Who knows what injuries will take place, but right now, Tigers minus 2.5. I am taking that to the bank. And as we're 34 days away, me and Taylor wanted to do a quick Jersey countdown segment here and shout out one of the great running backs in this era of LSU football, and that is Stephen Ridley. He's the first 34 that came to mind, at least for me and Taylor. If y'all can think of any great 34s, please feel free to add it in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat. But Stephen Ridley had a really good career at LSU. Was counted on early as a freshman, contributed. Me and Taylor were talking about a score he had against Alabama on the road in a game that LSU lost back in 2009. But Ridley broke that run. He got in the end zone, and we, at least I as an LSU fan, thought this guy could be a significant part of our future. And indeed he was. He went on to go for 1,419 yards and 18 touchdowns during his LSU career, including a monster junior year where he had 1,147 yards and 15 TDs in 2010. He foregoed his senior season, went to the draft in 2011, but not before a lot of great memories. So shout out to Stephen Ridley, number 34, one of the best in the history of LSU football.
Yeah, for sure. If you remember a couple months ago, we were all like, hey, if you could pick a back and it's 3rd and 1 and you need him to get a yard, Stephen Ridley was actually my pick. I was a big fan of him. Another 34 that I just remembered, a guy that we didn't get to see play, but everybody who did said he was a stud. That was Cecil Collins. He also wore number 34. So a couple of great running backs there. But, yeah, I remember so many great runs from Stephen Ridley. We were talking about the Alabama run, and me and you were arguing over the year, but it turns out like he scored against them almost every time he played them. So, yeah, great player. Always showed up in the big games.
And that's really saying something, because a lot of LSU teams, like the whole team, could not score a single point against Alabama several times in this era. So if you scored multiple touchdowns against them as a freshman and then going forward, you were a great player, and Stephen Ridley was a great player. Shout out to him as we are 34 days away from LSU versus FSU over there in Orlando. Before we end the segment, just to end it on an LSU football note, we will talk Saints in the next segment, kind of recap the first week of training camp. Going a little long here, but I think it's okay because there was a bit of recruiting news over the weekend, and that is that 4-star cornerback Kai Bates out of Florida has committed to the LSU Tigers. On the surface, this seems like a really positive development for LSU. I'm not the biggest recruiting guy. Carter will come add some perspective a little bit later on, but this seems like a bit of good news. As we said, Kai Bates, a 4-star cornerback. He's from the state of Florida, which produces some really good players at that position, and he chose LSU over programs such as Florida State, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Alabama, and Ohio State. So this kid could have gone wherever he wanted to. It looks like he chose LSU. Taylor, that looks like a good get for Coach Brian Kelly and the Tigers.
No, it really is. And think about all the great DBs historically that have came to LSU out of the state of Florida. I mean, Patrick Peterson comes to mind. Kevin Tolliver was a guy out of the state of Florida. The thing I really like about Kai Bates, great ball skills because he's actually the team's leading receiver. At least he was last season. Okay. You got to look at his highlight tapes. Great route runner, great ball skills as well. That's going to translate to the defensive side of the ball. I'm excited about the guy, 6'2", 185, so really long at that outside corner spot.
All right, positive development, like we said, for LSU. Shout out to everybody in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat interacting with us here on a Monday edition of Off the Bench. Emil McLennan brought up Darrell Williams, who also wore number 34.
Yeah, half his career. Then he switched to 28. But he did wear 34.
He was a great player and a very unselfish player. He was kind of stuck behind Leonard and Darius Geis for the longest time. But every time he hit the field, he made an impact, man. I remember the Alabama game in 2017 where Coach O took the mic after and said, "We're coming and we ain't backing down." Darrell Williams had himself a whale of a ball game that day, and it got forgotten because the rest of LSU's offense didn't really do anything, and they lost that game. But Darrell Williams quietly put together a really good career at LSU, and he's still going strong in the league. So I agree with Emil, probably an underrated number 34 in the pantheon of LSU football.
Yeah, for sure. He's a free agent right now, but, I mean, you could argue that the last 2 years, he was the most, at least yards per carry, effectiveness-wise, back in that Kansas City offense, and they had a lot of backs in that offense. So, yeah, shout out to him.
And as we've said on the show the last few days, the last few weeks, man, not much shame in being a free agent running back in the NFL right now. It's tough to get paid, and it's tough to get a job for some people, but that doesn't take away from their talent. I'm sure Darrell Williams will catch on somewhere, and he was a good 34 in the history of LSU football. So there's your LSU football talk to open up the show. The Tigers 34 days away from the season opener against FSU. We'll take our first break of the program here, and when we come back, we will talk Saints. The Black and Gold wrapped up their first week of training camp last week. We'll make our observations. We'll present some topics for the Saints going into their season. That's all coming up next here on Off the Bench, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Go to centralplumbing.org, 925-8552, centralplumbing.org. When you overthink it, don't overthink it, okay? Just call Central Plumbing. Let's say you got like a problem with your pipes, a garbage disposal. You can actually, I mean, I've done some garbage disposal work for, not to brag. But maybe you just need like a new one, right? Whatever. You know what? Don't do it. It's just not worth your time or effort or money or anything, right? Just call Central Plumbing. Take advantage of the licensed bond-insured employees, the flat rate pricing, the excellent warranty coverage, the customer service that's there for you when you need them with 24/7 emergency service, weekend, weekday, holiday, and then just don't lift a finger and have it fixed. How about that? That's what you get when you work with Central Plumbing, 925-8552. And I don't talk about this a lot. But also, if you've ever thought about wanting to be a plumber, right? It's an excellent place to work. Great pay, great benefits. Go explore it also by calling 925-8552, centralplumbing.org, centralplumbing.org.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has $8,000 off MSRP, plus 1.9% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks, along with Bayou Ford's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and 7 have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast office products.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a...
Charles Hanniger, join us for the Monday edition of Live at Lunch. We are at Finbom, Sushi Burrito, Poke Ramen, corner of Burbank and Lee. We'll recap the weekend, and we're into week 2 of Saints Camp. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
What's up, people? Welcome back to the show. Mario Jerez filling in for T-Bob and Jake. Casey Gaines on the audio board. Taylor Sharp getting us on YouTube. And football is in the air. Preseason football will get underway this week. Coming up on Thursday, Jets and Browns in the Hall of Fame game. That means the season is approaching quickly for the New Orleans Saints, who wrapped up their first week of training camp last week. And in terms of health, everything started really well. Everybody was out there, all the quarterbacks, Michael Thomas practicing in full, and the Saints had full participation for the most part to start training camp. And a lot of people were happy about that. And sure enough, something negative happened shortly thereafter. And that was the news that had to do with Trey Turner. Adam Schefter reported last Friday after we got off the air here on OTB that Trey Turner will miss the entirety of the season. He has a torn quadriceps muscle, and this is unfortunate. The Saints signed him last week. I don't know if he was going to start. I don't know how much he was going to play from the offset, but he was at least going to provide some depth for the Saints at an area where they really needed it in the interior of the offensive line. And this is a tough blow. This is a tough blow for a group that has already taken some losses. And I know Trey Turner isn't the Trey Turner he was in Carolina. Like, he's not a world beater. He's not going to make a world of difference by being on the field. But this is really unfortunate. He was going to provide depth for the Saints, and now you're one injury closer to being in a really bad situation. So great start for the Saints turned into bad news with Trey Turner missing the entire season.
Yeah, it's not great news, obviously. Do want to say that, like you said, overall, you've been pretty fortunate with injuries. I mean, Michael Thomas being fully healthy pretty much takes an act of Congress, so shout out to the Saints for getting that done. This is very reminiscent of when they signed Dez Bryant. Like you said, he may not be the player he used to be. He may not be an instant starter right away, but a solid depth piece on an offensive line where you really needed some quality depth, just like you did at receiver years ago. If you remember, you signed Dez, his first full practice, tears his Achilles. He's done, never plays for the Saints. I mean, it's basically the exact same thing here with Trey Turner. I mean, he's a guy that has played in a lot of games, been a really good player for a long time on an offensive line that's a little bit thin, so it is a pretty significant blow.
Man, I'm happy you brought up the Dez Bryant thing. I've said this off mic, not on the air, but I remember that acquisition well. I was working for the Pelicans at the time, so I was in the building, with everybody on the Saints, and people were hyped that he was coming, man. The Saints already had a pretty good receiving core at the time. This was before Mike Thomas suffered all the injuries, when he was prime Michael Thomas. And Dez was going to come in, and he was going to be a presence not just on the field, but in the locker room. That's somebody who's always really good vibes. I enjoy following him on Twitter. I know you're not on Twitter, Taylor, but he's always posting messages of positivity, trying to give advice to younger players in a respectful way, of course. And I don't know how much Dez Bryant would have helped the Saints. I don't know if the no call still happens, but people were looking forward to watching him play, and that injury was it sucked. It sucked from the very first practice, like you said. It was the very first one. So the Dez Bryant era in New Orleans unfortunately never got started. Hopefully the Turner era can still begin, although it's a little bit delayed.
Well, if you remember, the Saints panicked a little bit when Dez went down, and they're like, we got to find another veteran receiver to bring in. They bring in Brandon Marshall, who was about 35 years old at the time.
About that.
Never got on the field. I mean, maybe played in 1 or 2 games. I don't even know if he caught a pass that year.
Somebody who I don't enjoy following on Twitter as much, and that's good for that kind of stuff. Brandon Marshall is a podcaster, is a lot more opinionated, a lot more abrasive. Not really my style, but he's also really active on Twitter, and he's active in the media too as a podcaster, I guess. But we'll see if Trey Turner ever gets on the field. Like Taylor said, besides that, the Saints have had pretty good fortune with injury, at least so far. And across the league, that hasn't really happened. A lot of guys getting carted off. Some guys you think are done for the season aren't really done, but for a couple of weeks. But as far as the Saints go, but besides Trey Turner, they've been pretty fortunate there. And a guy we talked about a little bit last week that has been looking really good at training camp, reportedly, is Chris Olave. And we posted a question last week to Hester and T-Bob, is he a little underrated coming into the season? Those guys said no, and I have to say I disagree a little bit. I think Chris Olave did some really impressive things as a rookie last season in a kind of chaotic offense with not great quarterback play. And it's interesting to me that Derek Carr, the entire offseason, even when Chris Olave isn't a part of the question he's being asked, has gone out of his way to praise the second-year receiver out of Ohio State. And Derek Carr, some of you may have caught over the weekend, when he was talking to media, he talked about a trip that he made to Las Vegas. And he took about 7 or 8 of his Saints teammates with him. He didn't name anybody he took on the trip except for Chris Olave. He talked about the importance of the trip, the importance of chilling with him, building a rapport, and he didn't really go any further. But he did mention Chris Olave, and I thought that was interesting. I don't know how much Derek Carr is really counting on Michael Thomas. I know that we're all hoping he's healthy, and if you know football, you know that a healthy Michael Thomas could make a world of difference, a lot of difference, the difference between being a fringe playoff team and being a Super Bowl contender. That's how important Michael Thomas is. That being said, Chris Olave should be counted on a lot coming into his second season. I mean, look what he did as a rookie. 1,137 yards in 2022, only 3 touchdowns, not great, but that's a lot of yards. That's a 1,000-yard receiver from jump with not great quarterback play, whether it was Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton. So men lie, women lie, numbers don't, right? And I think what he did as a rookie is really impressive, especially when you compare it to rookies of Saints past. Olave joined Marcus Colston and Michael Thomas as the only rookie 1,000-yard receivers for the Saints. Marcus Colston had 1,038 yards back in 2006 as a 7th-round pick. Jeez, he's way underrated. Marcus Colston was a freaking beast. And then we saw what Michael Thomas did, 1,137 yards in 2016. But I will point out that Olave was really close to that record, less than 100 yards away from Mike Thomas's rookie receiving yards record for the Saints. And when Mike did that, he was doing it not only with prime Drew Brees throwing him the football, but with a bad defense as well. He was on the field a lot. There was a lot of volume, so it was hard for him because he was a rookie, but it was easier for him to put up those numbers than it was for Chris Olave, in my opinion. And what makes it more interesting, last season, Olave, or what makes it more impressive, Olave's rookie year, is he did that after the injuries to the rest of the Saints wide receivers, right? Like, he was supposed to be the number 3 guy behind Michael Thomas, behind Jarvis Landry, but both of those guys got injured almost immediately, and he got counted on a lot. So I think Chris Olave did awesome as a rookie. I think my expectations for him are higher than most coming into his second season, and I'm excited to watch him this year, man.
Yeah, I am as well. Like you said about Derek Carr not really mentioning Michael Thomas as much. Look, Carr's a guy that's been in this league a long time. I just feel like now it's like, if you get anything out of Michael Thomas, anything close to what he used to be, it's nothing more than a bonus at this point. Like, it's great to have him, but when you have a guy like Chris Olave, who, in my opinion, should probably be the number 1 in this offense. He's younger. He's healthier. I think he's a little bit better of a route tree, a little bit better taking the top off the defense, which, for all of Derek Carr's shortcomings, he's a really good deep ball thrower. I mean, we've seen that throughout his career. And I agree with you. You know, when I was hosting last week, I mentioned the second-year wide receivers that could take the biggest jump. I picked Chris Olave for the exact reason. There's so many more weapons in this offense now. You cannot key in on just one guy like you mentioned last year. You know, he kind of did it with not a number 2 out there. Now he's got 2 really solid guys sitting there next to him. These guys are going to be hard to cover this year.
Yeah, the receiving core, I would argue, is the best it's been since, like, 2016. When you had a young Mike Thomas, you still had Brandon Cooks, you had, like, a Willie Snead, who's kind of forgotten now, but was close to a 1,000-yard guy in New Orleans. Like, you should have a much better offense this season. We'll get into the backfield a little bit more next segment, but you have a lot more depth. You have a veteran quarterback who's supposed to be a lot better both pre-snap and post-snap. Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael really don't have excuses for the offense to not be majorly improved this season. I think they will be, and I think Chris Olave will be a big part of that. We'll take our second break of the program here. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the Saints' backfield. Certain rookie running back is reportedly showing out in camp. Also, how much can New Orleans count on Alvin Kamara this season? Suspension could be looming, but he's still very much in his prime. So we'll break all that down coming up next here on Off the Bench. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,500 off MSRP on all new 23 Ram 1500 Laramie trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal.
Into the Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hunt back from vacation. He's got a lot to catch up on. He'll probably talk some Saints training camp, some LSU football, and maybe even a baseball segment or two. Tune into Monday's Hunt Palmer Show, 1 to 3 p.m. here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Shout out to everybody in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat. Already have a lot of great interaction today. Mario Jerez filling in for T-bob and Jake, having some fun with some folks in the chat. Shout out to the Pirate, big MSU fan. Don't know why he likes listening to LSU shows, but he does. He's always here. We appreciate him. We appreciate all of you here with us today. And the Pirate, I bring him up because he asked me a question over the break, and he said, hey, Mario, what are your thoughts on NIL and the transfer portal in the next 5 years?
Can we skip over that topic?
We're going to, and I think he's trolling. I think the audience by now knows kind of how I feel about those topics. I know they're very necessary. I know a lot of you are very interested in it, but I told Taylor, we had on the 12 p.m. show, a 17-minute segment the other day that started with a soundbite of Sam Pittman talking about the House of Representatives. And that's just not interesting to me. Like nothing you say in that segment is going to be interesting to me. LSU is going to navigate it to still be good, and other teams still have plenty to figure out. That's my take on NIL. It's very boring. The transfer portal is a little bit more interesting. You know, it's kind of like free agency, but I am really excited for the actual games to start in about 4 weeks, and that's what we're going to be talking about the next 3 days, the games when it comes to college football. What say you, Taylor?
No, I'm excited. I agree with you. You said the transfer portal's interesting. It's kind of like that car wreck that you're not supposed to look at, but you can't look away from it. That's how kind of I view the transfer portal. Yeah, it's just there's a lot better things to talk about, like the Saints running backs.
Hell yeah, good transition there, man. The Saints running backs should be a lot better this season, and that's kind of where I wanted to go this segment. Last segment, we talked about Olave and the injury to Trey Turner. What should be better for the Saints this year, no matter what, independent of what happens with Alvin Kamara and his situation, is the running game. That's something that needs to improve. And you look at the last 2 years, since Drew Brees left this offense, they haven't been as good. They were 6th back in 2020, the Saints' last playoff appearance. And I don't know if they need to be that good at running the ball, but they need to be better than 19th, which is what they were last season. 2 years ago, they were 15th when it came to rushing yards per game. And the run game needs to come along this season. Derek Carr is going to help a lot. He's going to hopefully mask some deficiencies in your offense, but you need to be able to rely on your running game a lot more, especially in the early downs. And we know Kamara is a good runner. I honestly think he's a little bit underrated as a between the tackles runner. He had close to 900 rushing yards last year, and that's after missing a few games. You know what you have with him, but the backfield this year should be so much better than the backfield last year and the last couple of years, because if you just think about what you had in 2022 at running back for the Saints, you had Alvin Kamara, but behind him, you had Mark Ingram, and this is an older, kind of washed-up Mark Ingram, and then you had guys like Eno Benjamin and Dwayne Washington, which is a huge drop-off. This year, going into 2023, you have Alvin Kamara. Yes, he may be suspended, but you're going to have him for most of the season. Ooh, we went over for the use of the first use of the cough drop there, Taylor. I didn't use it till 7:39. Giving myself a pat on the back. But last year, Alvin Kamara, old Mark Ingram, Eno Benjamin. This year, regardless of what happens with the suspension with Alvin, you have him, you have Jamal Williams, and you have Kendre Miller. And hopefully Taysom Hill is a factor too. You need to utilize him a little bit better than they did last season, in my opinion. But like we said, Derek Carr will be a big improvement there, but there needs to be a lot of emphasis in improving the run game too. And I think the Saints are trying to do that this season.
Yeah, no, they definitely are, because, before they drafted a Kendre Miller, you're like, okay, this offense could be really good if Alvin Kamara gets suspended. Kamara, no Kamara, all three of these guys are going to be involved some sort of way. I mean, you mentioned Kamara, obviously the great hands out of the backfield, maybe underrated a little bit between the tackles. Then you bring in a bona fide between the tackles runner in Kendre Miller, who in my opinion was probably the third best running back coming out of the draft this past season.
You think so? You saw a lot more TCU than I did, man, honestly. Like, I saw him towards the end and in the title game, and I know he was really good enough to make people transfer, like to Ole Miss, like one of their players did. But do you think he can come in and have an impact immediately, kind of like Alvin Kamara did coming out of Tennessee?
I really do, because, while he had a ton of yards and touchdowns, he didn't have a lot of wear and tear on him. Max Duggan was able to spread the ball around to guys like Quentin Johnston. That whole offense last year was underrated. I know against Georgia they got shut down a little bit, but Miller barely played in that game because of an injury. And I'm not saying it would have made a big difference, but it's not like they shut Miller down. He didn't play in that game, and I think that his pass catching ability is a little bit underrated, and it's not really his fault. That offense did not ask him to catch the football. It was a lot like when Leonard Fournette was coming out and everybody was saying, well, he can't catch the football. Can he not catch it, or did he just not catch it in the offense? I mean, there's a difference. And then Jamal Williams, same thing. I think his pass catching ability, very, very underrated. We saw it for years when he was in Green Bay. He was pretty much the receiving back instead of Aaron Jones. And then last year, he showed he could be that every down back. I mean, I think you got three guys that, while they're all very similar, they're all good at different things in their own right.
Yeah, Jamal Williams is a beast. Like, the Saints are just benefiting off of a situation that's similar to what they went through with Mark Ingram a couple of years ago. Like, just a little bit of money, like, made a big difference. It was a difference between Jamal Williams re-signing with Detroit and finding a new team. And at the end of the day, what they ended up paying on Montgomery was not that big of a difference. So I think the Saints kind of just got lucky there. They got Jamal Williams for good value, and you know what he brings to the table. That's a veteran. That guy scored 17 touchdowns in the National Football League last year. You know what you're going to get out of him. But Miller, to me, is interesting, and I'm agreeing with a lot of what you're saying, Taylor. To me, it reminds me a little bit of Alvin Kamara coming out of Tennessee. Like, he showed you can catch the football, but they definitely didn't utilize him to his full potential, and then the Saints did. And I know Sean Payton's not there anymore, but Pete Carmichael's still there. Pete Carmichael coached guys like, Darren Sproles and now Alvin Kamara in the modern day, and hopefully that helps with Kendre Miller. And for what it's worth, I liked his attitude. Like, he was asked about contributing early. He was asked about possibly taking snaps away from Alvin Kamara, and he was basically like, yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm coming for him. I don't care who's in front of me. I'm going to show out from the start, and I'm going to make an impact as a rookie. So hopefully he does.
No, look, this is a guy that had over 1,500 all-purpose yards last year and 17 touchdowns on a playoff team in a Power 5 conference. I mean, the guy can play football. I do. I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I like Bijan Robinson. And then right after them, Kendre Miller was my guy. I mean, when they got him in the third round, I think I texted you that night.
You did.
When they got him in the third round, and I was like, Mario, your team got a hell of a player in the third round of this draft. I'm excited about him, and yeah, regardless, Kamara, no Kamara, I think the running game's going to be fine.
Yep, Saints fans excited to see what they have in the backfield this season. They know what they have in terms of a long snapper, and we do have some news there. The Saints re-signed their long snapper, Zach Wood, a longtime New Orleans Saint, has agreed to a 4-year extension through 2027. His salary of $1.17 million will be guaranteed. 7 figures for a long snapper, not bad. And he also gets a $1 million signing bonus. And this is an important position, man. I know you remember the long snapper from, what team was it? I want to say the Giants against the 49ers back in the day. It was a long snapper that hadn't played that season. And then the Giants, I believe, had 2 injuries to their long snappers. This guy comes in, biggest snap of the season, field goal to win the game, tie the game. I don't remember what it was. It was a bad snap. And throughout NFL history, at least since I've been following the league, that's kind of been a cautionary tale for how important long snappers is. And I've been watching the Saints my whole life. I've been broadcasting the games in Spanish the last 4 seasons. I don't remember a bad long snap from Zach Wood. He's been a solid player, and people might say that's not an important position. In reality, it's one of the most important positions on the field. So shout out to Zach Wood, who, by the way, got his own highlight package for the New Orleans Saints. I like the work there from Alex Restrepo and the social media crew giving their long snapper some love. So much-deserved contract extension for Zach Wood.
Yeah, I'm not sure what a highlight reel would look like for a long snapper. I'm going to definitely check it out. But look, when I looked up the name Zach Wood, I'm like, who the heck is this guy? That's what you want. You don't want to know the name of your long snapper, because if you do, it's because he screwed something up. This guy, yeah, super consistent, and if they think he's worth the money, I'm not arguing with him.
We talked about Jamal Williams being worth the money. He signed a 3-year contract to play for the Saints, and he's going to be an important player this season. Fans are excited to have him around, but over the weekend, there were some Saints fans who were ticked with Jamal Williams because he was asked about the food in New Orleans, and he essentially said that beignets, the little donut pastries, the fried donuts that you get at Café du Monde, are overrated. He said it's just basically like a funnel cake, and he doesn't understand why they get so much hype. So going around the room, starting with Casey, beignets from Café du Monde or from anywhere, are they rated perfectly? Are they overrated? Are they underrated? What say you?
I think from Café du Monde, overrated.
Ooh, okay.
But I think just generally, they're pretty well rated.
I'll get behind that. Taylor?
I've eaten a lot of beignets, maybe a tad overrated, and this is not because I don't like them. I love them, but, they're a simpler food. I think they're great. I may even go properly rated. I think they're good. I mean, I don't think it's one of those things that people hype up and you go eat them and you're like, these aren't that great. I like a good beignet.
Yeah, I've had funnel cakes before, like at fairs and stuff, and I think there's a significant difference, like at least for me. I think beignets are much better. You get to see them made. They go really good with coffee, chocolate milk. Like, I'm biased here. I grew up with that stuff, so of course I'm not going to say they're overrated, but I'm a little surprised at y'all's reactions, man. I thought y'all would be a little bit more critical, like a Jamal Williams, but I'm glad to see that we appreciate beignets, and maybe like Casey said, he's just going to the wrong spots. Maybe he needs to try like a mom and pop beignet shop. But some strong words from Jamal Williams there. That's what's going on at Saints camp. Not really going to break down too much what's going on the field. We will talk a little bit about some names that are impressing coming up in the third hour, but the key thing for the Saints right now is health. And if you take away the Trey Turner injury, they're mostly healthy right now, and that's definitely a positive development as they approach their first preseason game. So that'll wrap up our Saints talk for the hour. We'll come back and wrap up the hour on the other side, talk about some drama, a war of words going on in the NFL involving a former New Orleans Saints coach and now a star quarterback that clapped back a little bit. We'll talk about that on the other side. Mario Jerez, Casey Gaines, and Taylor Sharp here with you for Off the Bench, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-bob.
Hey, ITI Technical College. I love ITI Technical College, and ITI Technical College loves you. I always talk about, right, if you want to change your life, you want a career, okay, not a job. You want to do well. ITI is the best return on investment that you're going to get in the entire state based on what you pay for school versus what you get in return. And Georgetown studies prove that. That's not me just pulling that out. But they've been doing this, y'all, for 50 years. And the best part is, if you go tour the campus, you go talk to them, you go to iticollege.edu, you go sign up, you see this, they care about their students. You got small classroom size. You got faculty members with multiple years of real-world experience. They have career consultants. They will schedule your classes for you. They will do mock job interviews for you. They will help set up internships with all the businesses that they have relationships for you. Like, all they want, if you come to them, they just want to help you be successful. They've been at it for 5 decades. Follow them at ITI College.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows, LSU gearing up for fall camp, and we'll have your latest Saints training camp reports. Join us Monday's AFR, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Off the Bench. Mario Jerez filling in for T-Bob and Jake, Casey and Taylor, holding it down as producers today. And Taylor was a big help with the document over the weekend. I like what he put to start this segment. He put Aaron Rodgers versus Sean Payton cage match. Let's make it happen. That's appropriate because, as I teased in the last segment, over the weekend, the war of words between the New York Jets and Sean Payton continues. If you remember, last weekend, Sean Payton just popped off talking about the Jets and how Nathaniel Hackett did one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL and how the situation is so bad he can't believe that what happened last year was allowed to happen. Well, we saw a player from the Jets clap back. We saw Robert Saleh, the head coach of the Jets, clap back last week. And now Aaron Rodgers has chimed in as well. Over the weekend, he said, quote, "It made me feel bad that someone who's accomplished a lot is that insecure that they have to take another man down. I think it was out of line, inappropriate, and I think he needs to keep my coach's name out of his mouth."
Pulling a Will Smith. You gotta love it.
Yeah, he beat me to the joke, man. Some Will Smith energy out of Aaron Rodgers right there. Taylor, I know you have thoughts. I know you were surprised Sean Payton said this. Are you surprised at Aaron Rodgers' retort here?
No, I'm not. I feel like Aaron Rodgers was kind of put in a position where he had to respond, because Hackett's on the staff now. I'm not one of those people that was like, well, it's so unprofessional. You can't be like this as a head coach. I don't really care about that as much as like, why did Sean Payton feel the need to say this? We all knew Nathaniel Hackett sucked.
Yeah.
Even Denver did. That's why he didn't even make it a full year. And it's like, Rodgers did say one thing in that quote that I really did agree with. He goes, it's almost like Sean Payton is already making excuses for this season if it goes bad. And I agree. And that opens him up for a lot of criticism that he probably wouldn't have had if he made this statement. It's just one of those things where I'm like, right before Sean Payton took the podium and made these comments, when he said this, what was his thought process when he's like, what is the best possible outcome of me making this statement? It just seems like one of those things where it's like, he's taking all this criticism that otherwise wouldn't have been there. Like, why? Why do it? That's my only thing. I think it was a questionable move by Payton.
I'm with you. And you know me, man, lifelong Saints fan. I got a lot of respect and admiration for Sean Payton. Won a Super Bowl there. I think he's one of the great coaches in NFL history. That being said, he's also kind of a jerk. Like, there's no other way around it. And this is something that was said publicly in situations with the media that was public. He's kind of acted like a jerk before. And I know behind closed doors, he's acted like a jerk. So I think it's a situation of what he acknowledged in that he still had his Fox hat on. Like, he forgot for a second that he is a coach again. And you can't talk about your peers this way, even if that's how you feel. And like Taylor said, how most of us feel. We know Nathaniel Hackett sucked last year, but that's still your colleague. You're still going to rub some people, not just him, but some of your fellow coaches the wrong way by saying that. And there was no reason for saying that. You know, maybe he hyped up his team. Maybe it's a situation where he's trying to show his team confidence by saying, you know, these kind of things. But I think it was unnecessary. And that's why he apologized for it. That's why Aaron Rodgers had strong words for it. And that's why it's pretty much in the past now. But hey, I enjoy these kind of things, man. It's not good if you're a coach, I guess. But for guys like us in the media that had to talk about it, we embrace the drama. It's good. It's going to add some excitement to that Week 4 game between the Jets and the Broncos. So Sean Payton, Aaron Rodgers, war of words. That'll wrap up this segment. That'll wrap up this hour. We'll come back and start the second hour with weekend winners. This is Off the Bench, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-bob.
Yeah, boy, they're like, Rich Rod at West Virginia, a game away from the Natty.
It's true.
I can't believe it. Go to Patient Plus Urgent Care.
It all worked out for you.
Yeah, right? PatientPlusUC.com, where you will see the difference. Quality care for life's unexpected moments. Also great commercials and great mascot with that little puppet. I love that little puppet. But look, it's not about games, okay? This is about your health. It's about getting in, get better. There's colds going around, stomach bugs going around. You and your family need the treatment you deserve. Go to Patient Plus Urgent Care. You're going to see the difference. PatientPlusUC.com.
T-Bob's right. You will see the difference as soon as you walk into any of the facilities, right? It's not like they have just one main facility and the rest of them aren't up to par. I mean, they all are going to blow you away. So any that you walk into, remember there's one that's convenient for you in the Baton Rouge area. No matter where you're at, find the location that is nearest you. You can do that at PatientPlusUC.com. Get in and get better.
This summer, retirement is a state of mind. Whether it's a mid-morning activity or an early bird special, grab a Coors Light and chill like you're retired.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Let we go.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Jacob Hester and T-bob Hebert.
Yeah.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-bob.
Hey, P, they said I got to come off the bench.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-bob. Yo, yo, yo.
What's up, people? Mario Jerez here, filling in for Hester and T-bob, welcoming in you to a Monday edition of Off the Bench. T-bob is out all week. Hester will be back later on in the week. At least that's the plan for right now. Regardless, I'm here with you Monday through Wednesday. On this side of the room, Casey Gaines is on the audio board, filling in for me in my usual role, and Taylor Sharp is getting us on YouTube, also kind of the de facto co-host today. I'm bouncing a lot off of Taylor on today's program. Definitely very thankful for his help, pre-show and post-show. So shout out to the producers. Shout out to all of you for being here with us today. We have a great show coming up. We'll kick things off here, recapping the weekend in a moment. Carter, the Power Bryant, will join the show at 8:30. Yes, I do like to have Carter on pretty much every time I host, but we don't have him on normally, honestly, very much. And I think he brings great energy. He brings great knowledge for sure when it comes to LSU and college football. So looking forward to catching up with Carter at 8:30. Plus, Hold the Mayo will join the show at 9:15 in his usual spread line. So lots coming up on the show, but we'll kick off hour number 2 like we do every Monday at 8 a.m. with our weekend winners.
That's how winning is done.
That's right. We can't have anyone freak out there, okay? We've got to keep our composure. We've got too far.
I'm by winning. I win here and I win there. Now what?
Are you doing what it takes to win a championship?
Wow, winning.
Well, then I guess there's only one thing left to do. What's that? Win the whole thing.
Brian Burgess just reminded me in the YouTube Bayou 4 chat that our first weekend winner should be T-bob, because T-bob wanted to tweet out about how he was having a bad airport experience on his way to, I think he's in California. Does he want y'all to know where he is? I don't know. I honestly don't know where he is, but he was having a bad
He's in California. I can give you the exact address if you want it.
There you go. So
No,
so could Danny. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Shout out to Danny. Hopefully he's doing well. T-bob was having a bad airport experience. He said he wanted to tweet out about it, but he didn't. So he tweeted out about having a bad airport experience and about how he wanted to go into detail, but he didn't. So I guess I'll give T-bob a weekend winner there for having some restraint. Hopefully T-bob's having a good vacation. And on some real, we mess around a lot with each other on this show, but T-bob has really been killing it the last 6 months or so. You could see he's really putting in the effort. Not that he doesn't always prepare, because he does, but you could see the fire in his eye coming into this football season. He wants to do good, not just on this show, but in his other ventures where he's really thriving. So shout out to T-bob. as far as our first formal weekend winner, I want to give a shout out to the U12 USA baseball team. I'm honestly not sure what competition this is in. I know this is an international competition, and I know that there's no mercy rule, no run rule, because over the weekend, this was on Friday afternoon, the USA U12 international team defeated New Zealand 43-1. 43-1. No mercy shown. That's the American way. I appreciate that. Got to play to get better, and you don't get better by giving anything less than 100%. So I feel a little bit bad for New Zealand, although I will say we should give a bonus weekend winner to whoever scored that one run for New Zealand. Like, hopefully that kid got some extra food or some extra drink that night, whatever, an extra prize, because one run when you lose 43-1 is very important, and this was definitely a good performance by the 12-year-old Americans here. Shout out to them.
I actually think the U.S. failed to cover the spread here. I mean, somewhat close game, right?
That was a good one, man. I think they definitely covered here. Taylor, do you have any weekend winners? Just going in the rotation here.
I do have a weekend winner. One Mr. Daniil Hunter, shout out, the LSU alum. He signed a new one-year deal, but it could be worth up to $20 million as far as bonuses and incentives go, staying with the Minnesota Vikings. So shout out to Daniil Hunter, whose wallet just got a little bit fatter.
Daniil Hunter has been an amazing player in the NFL, and every time I hear anything about him, I always think back to his career at LSU and how underwhelming it was. Like, come on, John Chavis, Les Miles, whoever you want to assign responsibility for this. Daniil Hunter, his career at LSU, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it was, he had 4.5 sacks his entire career. In the NFL, he had 6 sacks as a rookie, so already better than that, and 71 in his 7-year career. So Daniil Hunter, a little underwhelming at LSU for sure, not so much in the NFL. Well-deserved contract there. We'll see how the tandem of Daniil Hunter and Marcus Davenport does for the Minnesota Vikings this year.
If Davenport could stay on the field, it might be a pretty good tandem.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Maybe he gets more than 0.5 sacks this season. But shout out to Daniil Hunter for sure, securing the bag for the Minnesota Vikings. My next weekend winner, not a big baseball guy, y'all know, but this team's pretty significant. The Texas Rangers have acquired star right-hander Max Scherzer from the New York Mets. I definitely still thought he was on the Nationals, not going to lie, but apparently, according to ESPN, this will fortify the Rangers' rotation for a World Series run coming up this season. The Rangers went to the World Series twice not that long ago. They were really close to a title. They didn't get it. I was a fan of Josh Hamilton back in the day. I went to a Rangers game once, and I got a ball from Ichiro. Ichiro was on the Mariners back then, and it was a cool experience. I'm saying that because I honestly have nothing to really add here, but this looked like a big piece of news, especially for the Rangers, so I thought I would include them as a weekend winner as they acquire Max Scherzer. Y'all got anything to add?
No, but I got a weekend loser.
Okay, go for it.
My weekend loser is the Georgia Bulldogs football program. What is going on over there in Athens, Mario? Georgia defensive lineman Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins was cited for speeding earlier this week. That makes a dozen football players since their national championship win in January. He was going 90 in a 70-mile-per-hour zone. We all know what happened at the one where a guy unfortunately lost his life. Like, what else has to happen for Georgia to learn their lesson? And honestly, Kirby Smart's been a great coach. He's recruited well, but I mean, he's kind of letting these guys run wild. This is not okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm comfortable saying, like, it's Kirby Smart's fault at this point because, yes, this has been an ongoing problem. This is something that definitely needs to improve. But after the last time, he gave a pretty powerful speech and was like, this needs to stop. I don't know how we stop it, but it needs to stop. And I don't know very much about this player that was caught. He could be a great kid. He could be a choir boy that's never gotten in trouble in his life. But given the circumstances, you got to kick him off the team at this point, right? Like, after everything that happened, after the lives that were lost, after your coach made such a big deal out of this, for you to still go out and do it shows a level of ignorance, a level of negligence, a level of ignorance that I haven't seen in a long time. So this is bad. We'll see how good of a player this guy is, whether it's at Georgia or somewhere else. But after everything that's happened down there, I can't believe he would do this.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, what can be done? I mean, do you literally take all the players' keys and they have to come to you before they want to drive anywhere? I mean, what is the solution to this problem? I don't know, but something's got to be done.
Emil in the chat says Kirby's final form will be Urban Meyer, is becoming Urban Meyer. I don't know if it's gone quite that far yet, but yeah, not looking good. Like I said, after everything that's happened, I can't believe guys are still out there speeding that play for the Georgia Bulldogs. My next weekend winner, a guy that isn't very popular around these parts, hasn't been for a long time. That's Eli Apple, free agent cornerback, a free agent no more. He has finally found a home, and that is with the Miami Dolphins. We talked about the Dolphins a little bit last week. Jalen Ramsey suffered an injury. It is significant, not season-ending, but it is significant. He's going to miss some time, and the Dolphins will fill in the cracks with one Eli Apple. And this is somebody who Taylor, I don't think, is a horrible player. He's serviceable, but he's definitely been the weak link on some really good defense, both in New Orleans and in Cincinnati here with the Bengals the last few years. Somebody who talks a lot more trash than he should. We talked about Draymond Green the other day. Is he good enough for him to talk the level of trash that he does? That was a little bit debatable. This is not debatable. Eli Apple, I think both by fans and by players, as shown by him not signing until now, one of the most disliked players in the NFL. But he does have a home. We'll see if he can hold it down with Xavier Howard down there in Miami until Jalen Ramsey comes back.
No, he does. And you just mentioned it. I think you nailed it, that he's not really as bad as everybody says. You know, he's kind of been the butt of all the jokes, or the meme, if you will. But, I mean, the guy's been good enough to be a quality starter, in my opinion, on a bunch of NFL teams. I mean, he played in the Super Bowl with the Bengals just 2 years ago as a starting outside corner. I mean, the guy's got skill. I guess it goes back to the whole Draymond Green discussion that we had a couple weeks ago with T-Bob. It's like, does his talent equal, like is he good enough to be acting this way? I guess it's the same thing as the Draymond Green thing, but no, I mean, I think he's a solid player.
The New Orleans stuff was unnecessary, like we were talking about with Sean Payton. Like, that's a team that signed you, a team that somewhat controversially traded for you. If you remember that acquisition, the Saints were going hard after Patrick Peterson. He was still on with the Cardinals back then, on the tail end of his career there, but they didn't make that happen. They kind of settled for Eli Apple, and Saints fans treated him well. I think he thrived as much as he could on a really good defense, but he got picked on a lot. And for him to pop off at the mouth, not just towards the players, but towards the city, that was really unnecessary. So I hope Eli Apple gets burnt a lot. I hope we see more burnt toast Eli Apple with the Miami Dolphins. My next weekend winner, going back to the college football ranks, Arch Manning. Arch Manning sold his first trading card at auction on Saturday through Panini. That's a very famous card trading company. And this card sold for $102,000, over $100,000. And this is interesting because Arch Manning is not accepting any of this money. This is all going to charity, which obviously for a good cause. But I kind of like, and Taylor knows I've been critical of the Manning family at times, but I like the situation they have going on with Arch. He's already said he's not going to accept any NIL money until he becomes a starter. And that's really noble, and I understand not every player is in position to do that. Not every player has the Mannings as their family. You know, they're really well off. Arch is going to be fine financially no matter what. But I do like kind of, that strategy of not accepting NIL money until you're a starter. There are some guys that are very comfortable taking that. Again, I understand they might need it. I understand. Don't get mad at me. But some guys that take it without doing anything on the field and then don't really do anything that's worth the NIL money that they're getting. So it's for a good cause. Nobody can hate on that. And I think it's building character for Arch Manning. So I'll make him a weekend winner there. He sells a card for $102,000.
I'm proud of you, man.
Are you?
Jumping on the Manning bandwagon. Good for you, Mario.
Nah, not saying any of that. I still think Texas will be bad with and without him. But shout out to him. Made a lot of money for charity there. Last weekend loser here has to be Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts. His Pro Bowl running back, Jonathan Taylor, has formally requested a trade, and this was after some really interesting comments that Jim Irsay said. He tweeted over the weekend, quote, "We have negotiated," talking about the running back situation here in the NFL. Jim Irsay tweeted out, "We have negotiated a CBA that took years of effort and hard work and compromise in good faith by both sides. To say now that a specific player category wants another negotiation after the fact is inappropriate. Some agents are selling bad faith." Agents are really mad when they hear that phrase. I remember that being uttered a lot during the Anthony Davis saga in New Orleans when they were trying to trade him to the Lakers. And this is a thought that Jim Irsay definitely could have kept to himself. I mean, if you don't feel for every running back, that's one thing, but Jonathan Taylor has carried this team at times in the last few years. And that was just a thought that he could have kept to himself. Of course, Jonathan Taylor is going to request a trade, which he did right after that over the weekend. I don't know if a trade will actually take place. I think it's more likely that these guys get together and try to somewhat squash the beef. I don't think their relationship is going to be the same going forward no matter what, but this is something that I don't think will end in a trade. for the Indianapolis Colts or for Jonathan Taylor, but it's still a messy situation there. And it's another situation of a guy that's made a lot of dumb comments, making some more dumb comments. So I think Jonathan Taylor ultimately stays a Colt, but this was still a really dumb thing to do from Jim Irsay.
Yeah, well, it goes back to the Sean Payton thing. It's like, was he necessarily right or wrong? No, he's just stating his opinion, but why? Jonathan Taylor, you never heard a word out of him. Now he all of a sudden wants out because you had to open your mouth and make this statement. Why make that statement? But also, like, chill out, Jonathan Taylor. Like, just be a man, talk to him face to face. Anytime something happens you don't agree with, you don't have to always get upset.
Man.
So both of them.
It's his owner, though. Like, there's no reason to say that in a public space. It's just disrespectful. And I get you. I do agree with you. He's not necessarily wrong. We all know the situation, but that's your employee, man. And this is an employee that does a lot for you, an employee that, scores a lot of touchdowns, gets a lot of yards. It was similar to Sean Payton, like you said, just an unnecessary thing to say. I will point out that I don't know if y'all saw the video, but over the weekend, kind of as all this was going down, Jim Irsay was in a golf cart at Colts training camp, and a guy from the sideline was yelling about some Twitter contest that Jim Irsay always does, and he gives out money to the fans. He was yelling about how he never wins the Twitter contest. I never win your Twitter contest, Jim. Jim Irsay heard him, said, all right, bet, got $2,000 out of his pocket, signed the $2,000, and went and brought it to the fan. So that guy doesn't have any problems with Jim Irsay's comments about Jonathan Taylor, and that guy is a weekend winner, although Jim Irsay is definitely a weekend loser. Looks like we covered everything here. I like the addition of the UGA player, Taylor. I can't believe that's still going down over there in Athens. And apparently, according to the Bayou 4 chat and some quick research here, Max Scherzer is not having the best season. So we'll see how much that really helps the Texas Rangers. I'm sure Hunt Palmer and other hosts will have more on that situation coming up here later in the day. But that'll do it for our weekend winners. Football heavy here today as we are approaching the season. Speaking of, after this break, we'll talk a little bit more football. We will discuss the biggest questions facing the LSU Tigers going into the season. I think that's a good segue before our interview with Carter, the Power Bryant. He's coming up here at 8:30. All of that coming up. This is Off the Bench, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Go to allstartoyota.batonrouge.com, allstartoyota of batonrouge.com. Man, rare is the show that we get this deep in it without talking about our friends over there at All Star Toyota. We're right there off Airline Highway. You can find your next Toyota at All Star. And of course, when you're talking about a Toyota, you're talking about vehicles that stand the test of time in a big way. They last forever. So it's an investment, right? And so let's say you want to buy either new or Toyota certified used vehicle. When you buy a Toyota from All Star, not only are you going to get the excellent customer service, you get access to the incredible service department where they actually drop you off at home when they're working on the car. They text you throughout. They don't move ahead without your approval. They pick you back up. So you get all the advantages of buying from All Star, but then also because it's Toyota, this thing's going to last. Eventually, you ain't going to be paying that car note, and you're going to be chilling, okay? Because you still got hundreds of thousands of miles left on that thing. So what are you waiting for? Get your next Toyota, All-Star Toyota, right there off of Airline Highway, All-Star Toyota, BatonRouge.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street. The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving.
Sandigrove, join us for the Monday edition of Live at Lunch. We are at Finbom Sushi Burrito Poke Ramen, corner of Burbank and Lee. We'll recap the weekend, and we're into week 2 of Saints Camp. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Rolling on here in hour number 2, Off the Bench, Mario Jerez filling in for T-Bob and Jake. Casey Gaines on the audio board, Taylor Sharp getting us on YouTube. We're getting ready to talk to Carter, the Power Bryant, coming up here in the next segment. LSU football approaching their season opener against Florida State. We're just a few weeks away. I'm very excited. Big challenge for LSU from that first game against Florida State. If y'all remember that game last year, to me, it was really chaotic. Florida State was a team coming in that had a lot of pressure when it came to saving their coach's job. I think Norvell has much better standing going into this season, and LSU felt good about their hire in Brian Kelly, but from the first game, there were a lot of moving parts. Like LSU, I believe, was playing Dellinger at center. That first game, they were having trouble with the snaps. Special teams was a freaking disaster. We'll get into that in a second. And LSU found themselves down late, with the first-time quarterback, at least on that team, having to take them down the field in a game-tying drive situation. And they came through there. The PAT got blocked, but we'll see what happens this year. Like I said, on the surface, LSU -2.5 feels like a pretty good play for me, but maybe I'm flying a little bit too close to the sun. My point is we might learn a lot from LSU from that very first game, kind of like we did last year. Special teams was a precursor to what we saw the rest of the year. But what do y'all think, Chat, Taylor, and Casey, are the biggest questions facing LSU football coming into the year? We know we're going to talk a lot about Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier going into the year, but I think you have to start with what we already discussed, and that's the special teams. Will they be improved? My answer is yes, because they have to be. I think Ramos is somewhat of an enigma. He had some really good moments. He had some really clutch kicks. I don't know if he can really be a kicker where LSU feels really good, in these clutch situations. Is he almost automatic when the game is on the line? I don't know if they're there just yet. I don't know how much competition he's going to see at practice throughout training camp, but with the parts around him being better, you would think the kicking game is going to be effective, and you would think special teams are going to be improved for LSU this season. That's a big question coming into the year.
No, I definitely think they're going to be improved. And as far as Ramos goes, if you remember the back half of last year, Ramos was actually a pretty good kicker. His stats as a whole, like you said, he struggled a little bit at the beginning of the year, but his stats as a whole, he actually wound up having a decent year just because his back half of the year was so good. You know, if they could stop those blocks on the field goal, which kind of seems like they did at the last half of the year, I think they'll be fine. Mario, as far as defense goes, my biggest question marks is going to be that edge spot, and then, of course, corner. Safety, you're deep, but then when you look at the front seven, you got Harold Perkins and Omar Speights in the middle. Those guys are going to be studs. They're solid. Up front, you expect your 3 down linemen to be Savion Jones, Mason Smith, and Mekhi Wingo, with all those transfers coming in, whether it's a Paris Shand, a Jordan Jefferson, Jalen Lee coming over from Florida. I mean, that position's deep. It's that jack linebacker spot, the role that B.J. Ojulari left, that hole to fill. That's kind of my biggest concern. Now, Ovie Ogofu coming in from Texas, in my opinion, is going to be the guy to take that spot, and he had some good numbers at Texas. Hasn't played in the SEC yet, though. That edge position, that jack linebacker, if you will, that's my biggest question mark on the whole team going into the season.
That's fair. Somebody's definitely going to have to step up there. There's still some questions when it comes to this defense, but if all goes well and you have good health, you would think you're going to have star players almost at every level of the field. And I think, when it comes to the secondary, there are some questions. There are some new faces there. But the return of Greg Brooks might be a little bit underrated, in my opinion. That's somebody who came up with some huge plays last season. The strip against Auburn and the former LSU Tiger Coy Moore was a huge moment in the season last year. And I think he's going to be asked to do a lot this year, both on field and in the locker room as a leader. And you mentioned Harold Perkins there for a second. We know what he is as an edge rusher. We know he can get after the quarterback. He won LSU by himself, I would say, lots of big games last season. But this year, I'm curious to see the diversification of his game, man, because Matt House, not only a really good DC, but has done some really good work with linebackers over the years, both in the collegiate and the NFL level. And Harold Perkins last year was super raw. There were times where the coaches kind of had to play him because of his talent, but he didn't really have the wherewithal to be a complete linebacker. Now he has a year of experience under his belt. I think we'll continue to see the edge rushing be really effective, but I think him in coverage, him doing things that he just wasn't able to do last year because he didn't have the experience, we will see this year. And that's a job that Matt House has had over the offseason. I think we see somewhat of a different Harold Perkins this year, but in a good way. I'm excited to see year number 2 of what this kid can do.
No, I'm excited. Like you mentioned, he's moving into the middle. I love the move. I thought he played a little bit out of position last year, which is hard to say because of how good he is. But look, we were just talking about the edge spot. If you struggle there, you can always put Perkins there in blitz situations. The thing I like about him being in the middle, it's more responsibilities for him, sure, but he's got the speed and the ability to go sideline to sideline. We know he can do that. It's so much harder to scheme against a guy when he's right there smack dab in the middle of the defense. You put him on the edge, you can always try to run away from him, maybe roll your quarterback opposite of where Harold Perkins is. When you're in the middle and you could still send him on a blitz, I mean, think Devin White did this exact thing. People don't really talk about that. His freshman year, he was coming off the edge. I mean, he had 3 sacks against Lamar in that Citrus Bowl, which I didn't hate. And but you moved him into the middle linebacker role the next year. He was even better. He was able to make more plays. You mentioned him in coverage. Harold Perkins had that pick where he jumped up in the air against Auburn last year and snatched that thing down. Yeah, we've already seen his coverage ability. I think a guy like Perkins in the middle of your defense next to an Omar Speights who can kind of help him adjust to that role because he's been a 4-year starter in Power 5 football. I think the duo of those guys in the middle is going to be really, really good.
I love the DY comparison. And while Matt House is a beast, I don't mean to take anything away from him. I think Aranda maybe utilized Devin White as a freshman a little bit better than they did Harold Perkins last year, but it's very similar. That they have skills that you can't really teach, like getting 9 technique and go get the quarterback, like nose for the football are things that you cannot coach, right? But with experience, you can get even better. And I think down the road, when his 3 years at LSU are up, Harold Perkins can have a Devin White-like impact, maybe a little bit better than D. White was. So very excited to watch him and the rest of the LSU defensive line this year. And before we get to Carter, we have to mention Jaden Daniels and his importance coming into the season. It seems LSU, by just going by Brian Kelly's words, are comfortable whether he's in the game or whether Garrett Nussmeier is in the game. Nussmeier didn't have a good start to last season. The 2 interceptions against Southern, you're going to be judged by game reps, but then he had much better game reps as the season went on later in the year and in the SEC championship game against Florida. But the mission for Jaden Daniels going into this year has to be pretty simple, and that has to be improving throwing the football to the 3rd level of the field. Like, he was efficient last year. He took care of the ball. You love the ratio, 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions with 2,900 yards. But you want to see that go up just a notch. Like, I've heard Brian Kelly say he wants him in like the late 20s there and maybe like 3,500 yards passing. You can't discount what he does as a runner, but when you get into the nitty-gritty of things, he will have to be better attacking that third area of the field. But I think he can get there. Given what we saw as a freshman from Jaden Daniels, I think he can make that improvement. He has a good coaching staff. He has excellent receivers to throw the football to, and I think he can be improved there. If not, Garrett Nussmeier might take his spot, but you got to like what you saw from Daniels as a freshman, and you have to like the healthy competition going into this year.
Yeah, man, I love it. I told you yesterday morning I was trying not to wake my wife up, wanted to watch something on TV. I was like, I'm going to watch some LSU football games, just put it on mute. So rewatched a lot of games yesterday. Yeah, the thing I like about Daniels, obviously that ability to run, but he made a lot of throws last year that were a little bit underrated in front of kind of a makeshift offensive line. I mean, you heard Brian Kelly at SEC Media Days. He said, last year I came here, I had no idea who any of my 5 starters are going to be on O-line. You return all 5 of your starters basically from last season. That O-line should be much improved. You just mentioned the receiving core. If Daniels can stand back there, learn to step up in the pocket a little bit more. Look, as someone who's played and coached this position, that's the most important thing you can do. It opens up so many more throwing windows. Because think about it, Mario. If you roll out to your right and you try to throw, you've basically cut the field in half. You have the hash mark to the sidelines. When you step up, you got sideline to sideline. You're there. You're ready to go. It still gives you the ability to take off and run. If he can improve on that, again, the O-line getting better, the receivers are there. If he can get them the ball, they're going to make plays. But, yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about with Jaden Daniels heading into 2023.
LSU versus FSU now 34 days away. The Tigers will kick off the season. Let's take a break and let's talk to Carter the Power Bryant. There we go. On the other side, let's see what he has to say about the Fighting Tigers. This is Off the Bench on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-bob. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
Bayou Ford has $8,000 off MSRP, plus 1.9% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks, along with Bayou Ford's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Consultation.
Pipe and Steel Industrial has been growing locally in Denham Springs for 22 years because of their commitment to safety, quality, and consistency. Whether it's emergency fabrication or material procurement in a time crunch, their 24-hour fabrication shops support their specialty welding and turnaround work. Pipe and Steel Industrial is truly a one-stop shop. Kylie Sparks, Leon Batto, and his team take pride in serving Louisiana from their world-class facility and invite anyone to take a tour at pipeandsteelindustrial.com.
At Lewis Mechanical, no plumbing job's too big or too small, and we have the best technicians around. Lewis Mechanical specializes in both commercial and residential plumbing repairs.
Lewis Mechanical, keeping plumbing humming.
Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. 5 brands on one lot. Shop BayouAutomotive.com.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Into the Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hunt back from vacation. He's got a lot to catch up on. He'll probably talk some Saints training camp, some LSU football, and maybe even a baseball segment or two. Tune into Monday's Hunt Palmer Show, 1 to 3 p.m. here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Very excited to welcome on our first guest of today's program. As Emil points out in the chat, he used to have a podcast back in the day with our friend T-Bob. Back in the day, he used to also be the sports director of KLSU 91.1, which I was as well. Student-run radio down at LSU. Shout out to John Frisha. And shout out to Carter for joining us here today. What's up, man? How was your weekend? How's life?
Man, Mario, it was so fantastic. Got to go to Chicago for the National Sports Collecting Convention, man. It was absolutely freaking insane. Angel Reese was signing autographs. There were so many other just LSU fans just walking around. It was amazing seeing how many LSU baseball national championship T-shirts. I saw a lot of baseball, just LSU fans. And, you know, I stopped and talked to them about Dylan Cruz, Paul Skeens, and obviously chatting about Jaden Daniels and the recruiting. So it's crazy. I did not expect that. I'm used to seeing LSU fans pretty much everywhere I go, but just the sheer amount of people happy to rock purple and gold after the national championship is just pretty astonishing.
That is awesome. We know the brand is strong right now. Jay Johnson gets the ring in year 2 with the baseball team. Kim Mulkey gets one in year 2 with the women's basketball team. And now Brian Kelly trying to do the same thing. I'd argue that's a lot harder to do in football in this division, but high hopes from the fan base nonetheless, Carter. And now LSU versus FSU are only 34 days away down there in Orlando. Right now on July 31st, how would you describe your excitement for that first game?
Yeah, the thing that kind of excites me a lot about this one, Mario, is it's a Sunday night game, right? And there won't be any NFL on by then. And it was kind of like last year. I think one thing people kind of forget about LSU Florida State was just how many people were just watching that game alone. The standalone value of playing on that Sunday night is actually pretty cool. And obviously, LSU did not play their best football last year. And this year, the thing that excites me more than anything else is just the fact that LSU won't be as rusty in their season opener as they are going to be this year because they have a better identity of who their team actually is.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it was somewhat chaotic last year for LSU. We talked about that in the last segment, with Dellinger at center, the special teams being the mess that it was. I think there's a lot more continuity coming into this year, and that's definitely a good thing for LSU. That's what's in the near future. When it comes to a little bit further away in the future, I know LSU has some good stuff going on in recruiting right now. You cover that a lot on your show. They secure a commitment from Kai Bates, 4-star corner from Florida, over the weekend. Is there, whether it's that or anything else in the world of recruiting, catching your attention right now when it comes to LSU?
Yeah, it's obviously a big pickup right there. And I also think this weekend with the splash and everyone talking about Caden Durham, Colin Simmons, it's obviously really good stuff. I also like Joseph Big Hoss Cryer. Now, I've not watched a whole lot of his high school tape just yet, Mario, but what I would tell you is if your name is Big Hoss and you're an offensive lineman from Louisiana, it is destiny that you end up with the LSU Tigers. So really excited about him. And obviously his Manny high school teammate, Tylen Singleton, just committed. So LSU trying to build those trenches up, and hopefully they'll be able to get even more offensive linemen in this crop. And that would obviously boast the trenches even more. And when you look at the other national championship programs, the teams that we consider the two elites of the elites in the SEC, Alabama and Georgia, I mean, you could just go down the list of top 100, top 125 offensive linemen that they bring in every season. I was astonished, Mario, when I saw how well Georgia was recruiting the offensive line. I never really just looked at it, but this year they have so many guys in that 2024 class that are just big hosses on the offensive line. So obviously if you bring in more of those types of players, that would obviously be pretty good. But I'm also really high on the offensive lineman that they have committed right now. And I also think Kari Lee, I love the attitude this young man plays with, the 3-star offensive lineman out of New Orleans. I think he's nasty, and I think he's going to be a really good player for LSU.
Carter the Power Bryant is our guest here on Off the Bench, host of Power Hour LSU on YouTube. Straying away from the Tigers for a second, Carter, we were discussing, and we will discuss maybe some potential surprise teams coming into this college football season. And I honestly really want to pick up what Vanderbilt is throwing down. If you remember, you were on Musso and I's show last year, and we had some fun with the win total. Musso thought I was crazy, but I smashed the over 2.5. Sure enough, 5 wins for Clark Lee in his first year, wins over Florida and Kentucky. I'm thinking that in a perfect world for Clark Lee and for Vanderbilt, maybe not this season, but in the near future, Vanderbilt can have like at least James Franklin levels of success. Clark Lee was really juiced up to take that job. He overachieved in year one. Do you think they could, at the very least, hit the win total that's at 4.5 coming into this year? And do you think Vanderbilt, for the second straight year, can put together a nice little season?
Strong disagreement here. You know I love you, Mario.
All good. We love you too.
Here's the thing about James Franklin, right? No matter what he does at Penn State, I mean, he can even win a national championship. The fact that he was able to have back-to-back 9-win seasons at Vanderbilt, that is still going to be one of the best SEC accomplishments I have ever seen. So, obviously, I really like what Clark Lee's done at Vanderbilt. I just don't think they will get to that level of success. But I hope so. I like a program that's been grinding away like they have been, and I think it should be a very fascinating season for them. But as a surprise team in the SEC, is there anyone out there that I find to be very tricky? The one game for me, and especially if you look at it from an LSU perspective, Mario, is Missouri, right? I think where that falls on LSU's schedule could be very tricky. Historically, back-to-back road games in the SEC, Mario, doesn't produce good results for teams that have to play them. So since 2019, there have only been 2 teams, that have won back-to-back road games, not including 2020, of course, the Rona year. And those teams are 2019 LSU and 2022 Georgia. So 2 of the best teams we have seen in college football, especially in the modern era, are the only teams that have been able to survive back-to-back road games and winning both of them. Now, this year, there are a lot of teams, Mario, that play that back-to-back road game type of scenario. Arkansas actually has 4 games in a row in the middle of the season where they play away from Baton
Schedule
Rouge.
makers never do them any favors at all, year to year.
Yeah, and what's very interesting about LSU, I think they will win both of these games. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just playing your best football each and every week is going to be very difficult. Obviously, one thing LSU struggled with, Mario, overall last year, was just playing on the road in general. Once again, they know who they are as a team. They'll be better equipped to do those things this next year. But obviously, those teams that have these brutal stretches of games just really struggle if they have to go back-to-back on the road. But you look at some teams that I think have a favorable schedule. I think Kentucky has a very favorable schedule. It's been a long-time thing. I did a deep dive on this on my SEC channel, Power Hour SEC. Kentucky has always played a soft schedule, and this year they have the softest first month of a schedule I have ever seen in my life, with Ball State, Eastern Carolina, Akron, and at Vanderbilt in the first month of the season. Come on, Kentucky. But I think when you look at their schedule, they do have some things that set up really nicely. They get a bye week before Tennessee, and Tennessee will be coming off a back-to-back road game scenario. So it's now or never with Kentucky, with Dennis Leary coming in at quarterback.
Yeah, the East behind Georgia, of course, could be really interesting this year. A lot of new faces in that side of the conference. We talked briefly about James Franklin there, so I do want to ask you a little bit about Penn State, the current team that he is coaching.
Okay.
Some people nationally have really high hopes for the Nittany Lions coming into this year. Down there in Pennsylvania, they have really high expectations. They had a good season last year, winning the Rose Bowl, and now they replaced Clifford, the longtime QB, with Drew Allar, who is going into his sophomore year. But this is a kid that was highly recruited, and a kid that some people that follow Penn State would tell you can make the ultimate difference when it comes to their season. Are you high at all on Penn State coming into the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nicholas Singleton is very underrated. I think that's one of the players that we don't talk quite enough about. Obviously, you take a look at Penn State's schedule. They get UMass before going to Ohio State, and the week before, Ohio State has to play at Purdue. Now, Penn State, of course, has to go to Columbus. It's never easy, obviously, to win in the Horseshoe. But I think this is a very nice season, the way that their schedule actually shapes up. Obviously, Illinois is always tricky with Bielema, but they lost their best asset. I believe their defensive coordinator, Ryan Walters, of course, goes to Purdue. And then, obviously, it's going to come down to how we feel about Michigan going into this next season. Obviously, they had this very bizarre off-the-field situation with Jim Harbaugh and the potential suspension. Will that affect Michigan down the road? I'm not so sure. But, yeah, you look at Penn State. They've gotten better at the trenches. Obviously, James Franklin's done a really good job recruiting that team. They've had some good receivers, Parker Washington. But overall, I still like Michigan and Ohio State as the elites. But if there was a season, they do have their golden boy quarterback, like you mentioned, Drew Allar. It would be this one.
Okay, fair enough. And before we get you out of here, Carter, one NFL question. I know you were paying attention to what went down at training camp with the Bengals. It looked like a really scary scene with Joe Burrow. He was rolling out of the pocket. He started limping all of a sudden, and he went down. We all thought the worst, at least I did. It turns out it's a calf strain. We'll see exactly how serious this is, but this is really bad timing for our boy. On the verge of a contract extension, trying to have another big season in Cincinnati. But certainly, I'm sure that you're glad he's okay, like we all are.
It's Joe freaking Burrow. Joe Shiesty. Joe Burr. Do you think a little calf strain is going to stop this man from being Timothée Chalamet? No way. Joe Burrow is fine. The calf, I will donate my calf muscle to Joe Burrow. I will do whatever it takes to keep him healthy on the field for this year's Bengals team. And look, I want to enjoy this year of Bengals football the best way I possibly can because, you never really know what's going to happen to that core of him, T. Higgins, and obviously Jamar Chase. But I hope Joe Burrow is okay in all seriousness. Obviously a calf strain. He's been wearing the compression sleeve and he's just rolling out trying to do a Burrow thing in practice. I really do hope he is fine, but I think he's fine. I really do think so because never betting against Joe Burrow if it's just a little thing like that one. But, yeah, this Bengals team, Mario, this is, to me, the toughest division in the NFL, the AFC North, obviously with Deshaun back and having a full season with the Bengals. I still think Lamar's special. I do. Getting Todd Monken and Odell and those guys. And then, of course, got the Steelers, getting Patrick Peterson, Braden Fiocco in on that team. And then overall, you got a Hall of Fame coach, a lot of good weapons. Not a Kenny Pickett guy, really, but, I mean, he's competent. And you got a Hall of Fame coach. Man, it's going to be a tough year for the Bengals. So, yeah, I think Joe's going to be fine. But even if he was healthy, this is probably the toughest division that they've had since Joe's been there.
Well said. Should be interesting to watch. Carter went a little over. That's my bad, but it's no problem because we always enjoy talking to you, man. Thanks for bringing the energy. Thanks for bringing the insight as always. Hope to talk to you again soon, my friend.
All right, Mario. Let's get it going. Let's go.
Let's go. Carter, the Power Bryant, one of my favorite personalities out there in the LSU sphere and definitely one of my good friends in this industry. And those are valuable. So shout out to Carter, the Power Bryant. All right, we went over, like we said, pulled the T-bob. Les Miles was my coach, blah, blah, blah. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 2 here on Off the Bench, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-bob.
Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys, 225-888-8888. Hey, if you ain't got any haters, you ain't Gordon, okay? But guess what? There are some haters out there, which there are many, but there's much more lovers, including a lot of your favorite athletes, as they're members of the G Team. I'm always telling you about the Grubbin' with G series, which you can find on social media at Get Gordon, wherever whatever social media you're on. And it's where Gordon sits down with some of your favorite athletes. I love watching Angel Reese, Flage, Mason Smith was not long ago. Just sat down with Harold Perkins the other day. Like I said, the only clip that I've seen out of it, I haven't watched the whole thing yet, was Perkins talking about how after freshman year in high school, he actually quit football for basketball. What could have been. Thankfully, he stayed with football. Thankfully, he found his way to the G Team. And thankfully, we get to watch him for another fall. Hey, if you need help in the courtroom, get Gordon, get it done. 225-888-8888.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Rev Business started small in 1935. We built our reputation by providing hometown service with Louisiana hustle. For nearly 90 years, we've expanded across our great state, through the swamps and across the Mississippi, bringing fiber optics from the capital to the North Shore and down the bayou to the coast, all to connect your business with the world. Rev is about big business technology with small business personal service, powerful solutions, unmatched local service. Rev Business. Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so...
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. LSU gearing up for fall camp, and we'll have your latest Saints training camp reports. Join us Monday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, and 1130 The Tiger.
Go see comedian Dave Chappelle live at the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans, Friday, September 15th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Also, 104.5 ESPN is giving you a chance to see Dave for free. Go to 104.5ESPN.com now to register for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the show. I would like to go. I would even pay money to go. I'm 99% sure I'm going to be doing high school football on that night, so it's going to be tough for me too, but I definitely encourage all of you to go to our website and sign up to get some free tickets. Dave Chappelle, I don't know about y'all, but in my era growing up, that's definitely one of the GOATs. He's always had like a risque style of comedy, even back in the day, like before cancel culture was a thing. He wasn't afraid to go there, and he isn't now, so I've always really respected that about Dave Chappelle, and I won't be going that night, but if you can, you certainly should. We went a little long with Carter in the last segment, like we said. That was my bad, but really enjoyed the conversation, talked about some surprise teams in the SEC, talked about some key questions for LSU heading into their season as they kick it off against Florida State in 34 days. And on the other side, in the third hour, we'll definitely talk a little bit more college football. Hugh Freeze up to some good stuff at Auburn, at least as far as recruiting goes. We'll talk a little bit about that and about reasonable expectations for him in his first year on the Plains. We'll also discuss some surprise games, potential surprise games on LSU's schedule, some games that people don't expect them to win that maybe they do, some games that people don't expect them to lose where maybe they come up a little bit short. That's the conversation we'll be having to kick off hour number 3. Also, Hold the Mayo will join the show at 9:15 for our weekly spread lines. I know he has thoughts on Jimmy Graham and some other stuff going on down there in NOLA. So stay tuned for hour number 3. Mario Jerez filling in for T-Bob and Jake. Casey Gaines and Taylor Sharp with you here as well. This is Off the Bench on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
Accutemp Baton Rouge, AccuTempBR.com. AccuTempBR.com. AC, heat, and electrical needs. You want to go to Accutemp. Greg says, how is Frozen S tier? Wake up, okay? Freeze your house out. You won't even need any magical powers like Elsa. You just call up Accutemp Baton Rouge, and they make sure that you can take control of your comfort zone. Your AC's running. Ask about the Star Club membership where you just pay a flat rate for the year, and they just like come out and stay on top of the situation for you so you avoid any catastrophic issues down the road. Go look at the online reviews. Thousands of reviews, and they have a 4.9 Google review rating, okay, out of 5. You only end up there if your customers are consistently satisfied. Their core ethos, service to the highest degree, is not lip service. They walk that walk. Put it to the test, and then tell me I'm an idiot if it doesn't work out, but I'm not worried about that because it will. They're the best. Accutemp Baton Rouge, AccuTempBR.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,500 off MSRP on all new 23 Ram 1500 Laramie trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done, or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks.
Let me go! All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Jacob Hester and T-Bob Hebert.
Yeah!
Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob.
Hey, P, they said I gotta come off the bench.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob. Yo, yo, yo.
What's up, people? Welcome in to hour number 3 of a Monday edition of Off the Bench. Mario Jerez here on this side of the room today. Usually the producer. Today I am the host. T-Bob is out all week. Hester will be back later on in the week, but for now, it is me the rest of the way alongside Casey Gaines, who's on the audio board, my usual spot. Shout out to Casey for always holding it down, and I enjoy the music when Casey comes on too. Good tune so far, man. Taylor Sharp is here as well, getting us on YouTube, kind of acting as a de facto co-host as well. We'll lean on Taylor a little bit in a couple of minutes as we talk college football here. But coming up in hour number 3 to wrap up the show, we will talk to Hold the Mayo at 9:15 for our weekly spread lines. He has thoughts coming out of Saints training camp. Maybe we'll ask him about the beignets as well. I'll make a note of that. I feel like Hold the Mayo might be a beignets or overrated guy, but we'll see. We'll also wrap up the show with some Ask the Bench. Please continue to talk to me in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat. The interaction has been awesome today. Good viewership. Would like to get close to 100 likes. If y'all can help me do that, that would be great. But really appreciate all the interaction in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat. Maybe Taylor or Casey will do something silly tomorrow if we get to 100 likes. Those guys are good sports, unlike Danny, who was lame and never did that kind of stuff. But we do have some college football to discuss here in hour number 3. Taylor was caught not by surprise, but this commitment to Auburn caught Taylor's attention over the weekend. And we're talking about wide receiver Perry Thompson flipping his commitment from Alabama to Auburn. And doing that at this time might be looked at as controversial. Alabama, while they're kind of down right now, and some people, like myself, would tell you the dynasty is dying a little bit. Not many people are flipping from Alabama to Auburn right now, especially not on offense, given the situation at QB. I know it's not good at Alabama, but there are a lot of question marks over at Auburn. I know they have Payton Thorne. I know they have our friend Robbie Ashford. But this definitely on the surface seems like a surprise, and it seems like a coup for one Hugh Freeze, Taylor.
No, it really does. And Mario, when you look at a guy like a Perry Thompson, 6'3", 205 pounds, he's from Foley, Alabama, and I want you to realize how big of a deal that is. Alabama does not lose recruits from Foley High School. I mean, that is Alabama's ground. Julio Jones out of Foley High School a few years ago. Everyone knows that name. He's a big, strong receiver, and he's the number 4 recruit in the state of Alabama. He's been committed to Alabama for a couple months now, and then he got on his Instagram live, and he flipped. Now, it's okay for Alabama to lose a recruit. Very rarely does one flip from Alabama to another spot, and this comes on the heels of last Thursday or Friday, DeMarcus Riddick, a 5-star linebacker. He decommitted from the Georgia Bulldogs and committed to Auburn. So, look, Hugh Freeze has this thing rolling. I don't know what he's doing out there, but they're definitely headed into the right direction.
Foley, Alabama, football factory, huh? I didn't know that. When I think of Foley, Alabama, I definitely think of Lambert's, home of the Throne Rolls. You ever been there?
Oh, I have.
That is an awesome restaurant. They have one of the best country fried steaks I've ever had. They don't sponsor us, so maybe I should stop talking. But interesting to me that they're a football factory and they have all these good players. I wouldn't have known. I do know that they have Lambert's, and I really enjoy catching some rolls. Maybe Julio Jones caught a roll or two on his way to being an elite football player. But that is huge for Auburn, man. And I think a lot of people have hope in Hugh Freeze. I think a lot of people think he will succeed, maybe just not immediately playing in the SEC West. But hey, we saw what Brian Kelly did last year. I'm not saying Hugh Freeze is on the same level as Brian Kelly, if anything, just because of the longevity. But you never know. And I'll also point you back to 2013 when Gus Malzahn took over. Nobody expected those guys to do what they did that season, right? And this is an odd-numbered year now that I'm thinking about it. So if you believe in Auburn's voodoo magic and you believe that they can maybe be good, surprise some people from year one, maybe that's not the craziest thing. At Ole Miss, his first year, Hugh Freeze went 3-5 in the league, 7-6 overall. Then he went 3-5 again in the SEC in 13, 8-5 overall. Then 5-3, 6-2 Sugar Bowl appearance before he got caught calling the escorts. Everything kind of, went to crud there for Ole Miss and for Hugh Freeze. But he did some really good stuff there. He surprised some people there. And we know he's a good play caller. You can, have debates about him as a head coach. Can he really take your program to the promised land or into contention, especially in this era of college football and everything you have to worry about, which he's talked about over the offseason. But we know he can coach some football. We'll see if he can surprise some people year one at Auburn. But I think a lot of people do think he will have success there, just not right away.
We'll see what happens. It depends on how long Auburn gives him. I mean, this is the same program who, when Gus Malzahn was having success, they were praying that they would lose games so that they could move on from him. It all depends on how much faith the Auburn administration has in him. It's similar with Florida. They did the same thing with Dan Mullen. Did they pull the trigger too early? Mullen did some things, said some comments about not being interested in recruiting, but basically had one bad season, and they fired him just a year after winning the SEC East. Look where they're at now. Auburn kind of in that same situation after letting go of Gus Malzahn. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You were asking about why would the receiver go to Auburn? Well, Hugh Freeze is that offensive coordinator. They're going to have a good offense there. And yeah, Alabama and Georgia better watch out because those are their two rivals. I mean, Georgia's their permanent East opponent, kind of like Florida is for LSU. And then the Alabama-Auburn, obviously. I mean, to flip it from your two biggest rivals a week apart from each other is very impressive.
Where is that game this year, Auburn and Georgia? I need to see because in my head, it's not like the craziest thing. Like right now, it sounds like a massive upset. Yes, Georgia's going to be a double-digit victory, but, just given history, given the wackiness of that game, you don't know what can happen. It looks like it is in Auburn this year. That's a Week 5 matchup against Georgia. And some crazy things have happened. We remember the prayer at Jordan-Hare on paper. I'm not going to be able to make the argument, but Hugh Freeze at head coach playing in that stadium. Who knows what can happen? Maybe I'll go check out the actual spread for that game and put a little sprinkle on Auburn there. But that is a big get for Hugh Freeze. And I do see Emil McLennan in the chat, the Bayou 4 chat. Shout out to Emil. talking about how Hugh Freeze was never consistent at Ole Miss, and I would agree with that, but the task at hand being Ole Miss's head coach is very different than the task at hand being Auburn's head coach. Like, he has a lot of work there, but the difference is, he's going to have the resources, he's going to have the money. He just needs to gain a little bit more respect for his ability as a football coach. And if he does that, they can be good, and they can be good consistently. Lots of work to do, but being coach at Auburn is very different than being coach at Ole Miss.
No, it is, because we know that the Auburn administration will pour the time and resources in for you to be consistent.
Kiffin almost left. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm just remembering that he was kind of flirting with Auburn a little bit after this past season.
Yeah, he has, and we know you can win at Auburn. We've seen it done. We've seen it with multiple coaching staffs. I'm not so sure you could do that at Ole Miss. That's why when everybody tells me, oh, A&M's such a threat, I'm not sure you can win at A&M. We've seen it at Auburn, though, and yeah, if he gets this thing rolling, I agree. He was a little inconsistent at Ole Miss, but maybe we'll see a little bit more of that consistency because he's got the backing of the administration.
So before we get to Hold the Mayo here, I did want to kind of piggyback off of something you said when you were hosting a Hunt show earlier this week. I heard you going through LSU's schedule and maybe some spots where they could get upset, and your answer was really intriguing to me. So I kind of want to give you the floor here. LSU has Florida State off the bat in Orlando. We all know that's going to be a tough game. If LSU loses that game, the fan base won't be like upset, I don't think, but the sense of urgency will definitely be there. You'll have very little room for error if you lose that first game against Florida State. LSU will be Grambling at home. Mississippi State on the road could be a little tricky, but here today, I would be surprised if LSU were to lose that game, especially with all the stuff Mississippi State is having to deal with. Forget the emotional part, the trauma of your head coach passing away. You're going from the air raid to the exact opposite, from an offensive coach to a defensive coach. So if LSU can't win that game, shame on them. Arkansas coming to LSU, that game will probably be a battle, but I'll be surprised if LSU drops that game against KJ Jefferson and company. Then they visit Ole Miss week 5. LSU at Ole Miss on September 30th. Ole Miss doesn't have super high expectations coming into this year, but you know they're going to have an explosive offense, and LSU is playing away that game. So maybe that could be a tricky game for the Tigers, Taylor.
Yeah, that was the first slip up, if you will, that I looked at on LSU's schedule. I know that when you had Carter on, he was talking about Missouri. I agree a little bit. I just think Mississippi is a lot better than Missouri. I'm not sure Missouri's actually good enough to upset, but Ole Miss is. I mean, I know that Jackson Dart struggled a little bit last year. Looks like he's probably going to be the starter there. This is year 2 under Lane Kiffin. You expect him to take a big step. You know he's a great offensive coach. The game before this is very important. It's that Arkansas game. It is always a battle between LSU and Arkansas. And Arkansas, they're getting slept on a little bit. They're not the same team they were last year. They had so many injuries. You got KJ Jefferson. If he's fully healthy, he's as tough to defend as any quarterback in the conference. Raheem Sanders, in my opinion, is kind of getting overlooked by a Quinshon Judkins. I mean, those are 2 really good offenses you have to play in back-to-back weeks. LSU is going to go into that game on the road a little bit beat up. I think that is the biggest trap game, if you will, on LSU's schedule.
I know you're not on Twitter, but you follow college football. I think you may have seen the story coming out of Arkansas talking about Harold Perkins in the game last year. They basically admitted they weren't really prepared to see him and for him to play as many snaps as he did, which surprising on the surface a little bit. Like, come on, Sam Pittman, come on, Barry Odom. I would have thought y'all would have had your ducks a little bit more in a row, but that definitely speaks to the talent of Harold Perkins. And this year, you know, Arkansas is going to put on emphasis on blocking him. Is he still 40? Did he change numbers?
He's
Harold
number
Perkins?
4 this year.
Number 4. They're definitely going to have a game plan for number 4. It's not going to be like last season. So maybe I'm not giving Arkansas enough credit. You could be right, Taylor. And for what it's worth, I do think they're being slept on a little bit. I know they lost their offensive coordinator, but still have KJ Jefferson coming back. Pittman, I think, is a coach that does well when he doesn't really have high expectations. Not saying they're going to contend for the West or anything, but maybe they do eclipse that win total, and maybe they at least give LSU a fight. So that will be an interesting game before the Tigers travel to Starkville the following week.
Yeah, it certainly will. And again, that game right after Ole Miss at Missouri, those are back-to-back away games. I agree with Carter that second away game typically doesn't go better, but I'm looking at the first one just because I think Ole Miss is a lot more talented.
LSU 34 days away from their season opener against Florida State. We'll take a break from the college football talk for a moment. On the other side of this break, we'll talk to Hold the Mayo, our final guest on today's show. We'll get our weekly spread lines from our boy Devin. This is hour number 3 of Off the Bench. Mario Jerez, Casey Gaines, and Taylor Sharp here with you on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
OTB, OT. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
or off-site with Louisiana Bayou Bistro. Your event never tasted so good. From crawfish balls to corporate events, Ashley Mountain and Louisiana Bayou Bistro, making your special event something else.
You've heard about it, we've got it. Semaglutide, RejuveMeMedical.com.
College football talk all year long on the Chuck Oliver Show, weeknights at 6 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Sandigrove, join us for the Monday edition of Live at Lunch. We are at Finbom, Sushi Burrito, Poke Ramen, corner of Burbank and Lee. We'll recap the weekend, and we're into week 2 of Saints Camp. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
OTB, OT, with Hester and T-bob on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 94.7 ESPN Alexandria.
Welcome back to the show. Good vibes here on a Monday. Casey Gaines, Taylor Sharp, Mario Jerez filling in for T-Bob and Jake. T-Bob will be back next week. Jake will be back later this week. At least that's the plan for right now. We're talking a lot of football today as we are approaching the season. And here to do some more of that is our final guest of today's program, a weekly guest here on Mondays on OTB. That is Devin Snow at SnowlightJohn on Twitter. You may also know him as Hold the Mayo. Devin, what's up, man? How was your weekend?
What's up, Mario? Weekend was good, man. Went to training camp 2 times this past weekend. I went on Friday and Saturday. So I got to see what was going on with the Saints, man. It's almost here.
It's almost here, and I regrettably could not go to training camp. Tough for me to do with this job and these shifts, but it is a lot of fun to get out there. Even though it's just practice, you see the players with the pads on, you see the fans out there. It's good vibes over there. And before we get to the Saints, because I do have some Saints-related questions, I wanted to ask you about the fights on Saturday, man. I know you were really into it. I know you maybe watched with some friends. UFC, in the world of UFC, Poirier versus Gachi was a big fight. Gachi won by knockout, Taylor tells me. And in the world of boxing, there was a big fight as well. Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. I'm sorry if I'm botching any of the names, but I do know that Crawford won. How were the fights on Saturday night, man?
I mean, so I knew who was going to win that boxing fight, so I didn't really watch that. You know what I'm saying? I knew Terrence Crawford was going to win that. But as far as the UFC goes, you know, that was one of the most anticipated cards of the year. It was in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's another big opportunity for Dustin Poirier. And unfortunately, just out of nowhere, man, you know, Gaethje just caught him with a kick. And, I mean, he even blocked the kick. That's what's crazy about it. Like, Poirier even blocked the kick, but it put him down. And it was literally out of nowhere, man. It was so heartbreaking. I love Dustin Poirier, man. I'll say it to the end, man. That dude he's a top-notch dude. He's a top-notch fighter. He's got a great story, and he reps Louisiana, you know?
For those that don't know, what kind of is the summary of his story? I'm sorry, because I know you do put on for Poirier a lot. I know he's a local guy, which I can get behind. But if you had to summarize that story for our audience that doesn't know, well, what has he been through on his road from Lafayette to now, I guess, superstardom in MMA?
Yeah, just a tough upbringing, you know, didn't really – you know, his dad wasn't around. He was getting in a little trouble. And I'm talking about when he was a teenager, young, and turned his life around, man. Fighting turned his life around. And the thing about Dustin Poirier is he's been doing it for a long time, and he's had a lot of times in his career where he could have just hung it up. You know what I'm saying? He could have been like, hey, man, it didn't work out again. You know what I'm saying? And he kept coming back. And, you know, he's one of the top fighters in the UFC in 2023. And here's a guy that suffered, like, some really bad losses, you know, early in his career and just overcame it, you know. If you want to talk about overcoming adversity, it's Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, we like to do that in Louisiana. So hopefully he's able to bounce back and continue his stellar career. Shifting the conversation to football a little bit, man. Before we get to what's going on the field, what do you make of the war of words between Sean Payton, now add in Aaron Rodgers, and so many others? Sean Payton just goes off on Nathaniel Hackett and the job that they did in Denver last year. We saw an O-lineman from the Jets clap back. Now we see Aaron Rodgers clap back. What do you make of Sean Payton's words and all the drama that on shows like this we love here in July?
Well, deep down, Sean Payton knows that Drew Brees got disrespected all them years that Aaron Rodgers was doing the same as Drew Brees. Drew Brees was just disrespected. He was never talked about, so I'm sure he has that deep down inside him. But other than that, man, I don't care what Sean Payton says at this point, bro. Like, it's July 31st. We're about to be into August. Sean Payton is not our friend right now, bro.
I'm like that.
We need to stop, man. Like, this guy, there's going to be something that gets in the way where we either have to, I know we don't play him in the regular season, but, man, if we make it to the promised land and he's there, you know, this guy ain't our friend anymore, dude. Like, it's all about the Saints, bro. I ain't worried about what Sean Payton's doing up there, who he's signing, former Saints. He can have Troutman, all them nerds. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. But, look, Sean Payton, wish him the best, and that's about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. At the end of the day, he did leave. I talked about it a little bit in the beginning of the show. You know, part of me will always have admiration for Sean Payton, helping to turn the franchise around. But, yeah, not only is he not the coach, but he left. He dumped you in this analogy, right?
So I will never forget his departure. Everybody, and don't get me wrong, rightfully, we were like, hey, we appreciate it. You know, go on your happy way. but you could just tell, bro. Like, at the end of that season, he was checked out, ready to dip. And then when he bought all the press, the media cookies and stuff on that departure press conference, man, like trying to sweeten us up, butter us up, I'm good on all that, bro. Like, wish him the best.
I'm with you. Down with the Broncos, but I do enjoy the drama for what it's worth. You know, some words in July, good topics for us on shows like this. When it comes to the current Saints, which we do very much care about, what do you make of the Jimmy Graham signing, man? I think that may have broke a little bit after we talked with you last week. If we did talk about it with you, it was very briefly. Some people have higher expectations than others. I do think he's going to make the team at the very least, just based on his salary, his contract, how people are talking about him. It's okay if you disagree. But what do you make of Jimmy Graham and some reasonable expectations here as a 36-year-old back with the New Orleans Saints?
Well, he just deserves he deserves it, and the Saints fan base deserves it. You know what I'm saying? We all remember the day that trade came through our phone. I was in class at Baton Rouge Community College.
Shout out Bears.
Yeah. Shout out. And I just remember reading it like, man, this just can't be. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just can't be. And we just never, I don't know, man, we never had a nice farewell with Jimmy. And I think he deserves this, bro. And then also, let me say this. I don't know if all these guys are going to make the team, but listen to the Saints tight end room right now. You ready for this? So, Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, Jimmy Graham, and don't sleep. We got Jesse James on this roster, too.
That's true.
And that was Ben Roethlisberger's guy, man. He's an older guy. He's the oldest player on our team. But that's 4 solid tight ends right there, bro. And who loves to throw to the tight end? Derek
Carr. Yeah. It could be good, man. We'll see. Numbers game might be tough, but you're right. On the surface, the tight end room looks really good for the New Orleans Saints. We'll see where Taysom fits in there too. But Jimmy Graham, good acquisition. I think you may have seen Juwan Johnson's quotes talking about Jimmy Graham, where he compared him to Master Splinter and the Ninja Turtles, right? Like, he's the OG. All the other tight ends are the little turtles, then they become big turtles, kind of help him along. That was cool, and I do like what we're seeing in the Saints tight end room right now. Defensively, Holden Mayo, a player we surprisingly haven't talked about very much on this show going into the year, is a very important player on defense, and that's Tyrann Mathieu. I think last season he was kind of in a tough spot. You know, Malcolm Jenkins did a really good job there for a really long time, and he was somewhat polarizing around these parts. This is just from my perspective, because I feel like a lot of people that were LSU fans that are also Saints fans thought he was really good, and they went to bat for him during the season whenever he struggled. And then you had people that are not Saints fans that do like LSU, or the other way around, you know what I'm saying? He was either really overrated or really underrated. I thought he was really steady in his first year with the Saints, and now with another year of experience with this defense, he could be even more effective. I think he was maybe a little overrated by some LSU fans going into last season, but going into this year might be a little bit underrated. And I will point out that he led the team with 3 interceptions last year. So what are you expecting from the Honey Badger this year?
I mean, I'm expecting him to have a better year than last year. I'm not saying he had a bad year because he actually finished pretty good, but let's be honest with ourselves. Those first 8 games, 10 games, it was rough.
He was missing a lot of tackles, yeah.
Dude, it was rough, bro, and I was letting the Saints defense hear about it on Twitter, trust me. And I just hope that he's a little more in rhythm. And it's not just him, man. It's really the whole secondary. I just hope they're a little more in rhythm to start the year, Man, we don't want to start 1-3. Let's start good, bro. You know what I'm saying? How about 3-1? Something to really feel good about.
Yeah, in the Sean Payton era, I know that was somewhat of a staple, start bad and then do better. But this is the post Sean Payton era, right? I'm with you. They had a terrible season last year. Dennis Allen definitely underachieving so far. You need to have some good vibes early on in the year, starting in that Week 1 game against Tennessee. I'm also for a good start.
One thing I'll say is the defense, when you watch them at practice and stuff, man, the first thing that's going to pop to your head, and I was around a bunch of people that were saying the same thing, they're like, man, our defense looks small. They're just smaller guys. It's nothing against the talent or whatsoever. We just have some smaller guys on defense. Then you go look at the offense, bro. This might be one of the tallest, biggest offenses we've ever had.
Hopefully. And I definitely have some questions on defense. Like Zach Bond, is he really going to be a full-time strong side linebacker? Like him on special.
Who?
Zach Bond going in place of Caden Ellis, who's on the Falcons now.
Okay. I mean, I like Zach Bond. I think he's a good dude. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There ain't no way You know what I'm saying? We're going to have to figure something else out. I mean, unless he just comes out balling. How long has Zach Barn been with us? 4 years?
Yeah.
And it just hasn't, every time we kind of put him in that position, man, it was a liability. So let's just be real here. I mean, he'd have to have a complete evolution as a football player, and I'm here for it, but I don't know.
Yeah, and hey, there are ways around it. Like the Saints play a lot of nickel. A lot of time you'll only have two linebackers on the field. But yeah, right now those are the reports that if they aren't a base, that's the guy that you're counting on. And maybe some guys behind him step up. Jackson, the second-year player out of App State, has gotten a lot of praise. I like Anfernee Orji from Vanderbilt. He's an undrafted guy. We'll see.
Yeah.
Training camp and preseason brings new storylines and new guys to step up. But that is the situation, and I could see why you'd be worried about it if you're a Saints fan. Hold the Mayo, did anything else around the NFL catch your attention? I saw Travis Kelce was kind of mad at practice. He punched a teammate. I know these are normal things for a football player, but we talked last week about how he was not able to meet with Taylor Swift. And in my head, he was letting his frustrations out on one of his teammates. So that's something that caught my attention. Did anything around the league catch your attention? Not Saints related.
Kelsey's also like that prototype, big, beefy white dude that he's gonna punch you if some stuff goes wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just I'm not even surprised to hear that. Not really, man. One thing, and I got to go back to the Saints real quick, Mario. Like, one thing I have to say, man, is to me the best player on the field. The 2 times I was out there, dude, it's Shaheed. Like, it is, and it's in that number 22. You know what I'm saying? He changed his number. He's in that number 22. Giving me like Dexter McCluster vibes, but like way better. Watch out for Shaheed. They got him in the backfield and stuff. Like looks like they about to really use that dude.
How much better is the receiving core this year, Holden Mayo? Like, independent of what happens with Michael Thomas, I think Olave had a spectacular rookie year. Maybe people don't talk about it that much. I mean, 1,000 yards with Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, the patchwork O-line they had at times is really impressive. And I know Mike Thomas has kind of dominated the conversation, but my expectations for Olave might be a little bit higher than most, man. I'm expecting big things.
I agree with you, bro. What you were saying earlier, like, I think he should be the one, and it's nothing against Mike Thomas, but hey, man, I'm just going to tell you what I saw the 2 days I was there. Man, Mike Thomas was getting locked up, bro. I saw him slam his helmet on the ground. He was getting locked up by a dude that wasn't even the first, second, or third corner. Olave just looks like, man, it's just perfect. You know what I'm saying? Just great form, great route running, quick. I'm with you, bro. I think Olave is going to be the guy as far as receiver goes.
Yeah, well, Shaheed apparently showing out too. Definitely love to hear that. And the Mike Thomas thing's a little concerning, man. I know he's coming back from an injury, and I know that he has some time before the first game too. Maybe refine that route running, be a little bit more violent, play football like Michael Thomas, but he needs good vibes. And I feel like this has been an offseason of good vibes for Michael Thomas. Devin, I know you follow him on Twitter. To me, it's a big deal that he turned replies back on. For the longest time, he was just tweeting and not seeing what everybody else was saying. He's at least at peace enough to do that. So I am expecting hopefully a good season if he stays healthy, but he's being locked down, you're telling me, and Shaheed and Olave are looking good.
Well, and I'm not saying, wrap it up on Mike Thomas. No, I mean, I'm just saying the 2 days I was out there, man, it was some frustrating days for Mike, bro. Like, he showed it.
Yeah,
trust me.
Appreciate the boots on the ground reporting. Like I said, you're not the first person to kind of tell us that about Mike. Staying with the Saints here, I guess to wrap up the interview, I don't know if you saw Jamal Williams over the weekend talking about beignets, but he said they were overrated, and he said that they're basically like funnel cakes. What is your take on beignets, whether it be from Café du Monde, from anywhere you can get them?
Well, I just think that it's generic cliche conversation. So, like, when New Orleans gets brought up, like, that's one of the first things, and I just don't think it should be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against beignets. I'm cool with them. I don't wake up on any morning in my life thinking, man, I got to go get beignets. And I'm a 31-year resident of this place. So I think it's just a tourist conversation. And immediately when people come down here, they're like, oh, you got to try beignets. If you're asking me, I think we need to change that. I think you should, like, beignets should be like 10th on the list, of things you need to try. Not, you need to go to Café du Monde. Like, okay. I mean, it's sugar and bread, dude.
Yeah, they're also really messy. Like, it's impossible to, at least for me, to eat without getting the white stuff on your shirt. But I think they're good. Like you said, I don't think they should be considered like a staple of the city. I mean, it's just a dessert food at the end of the day. There's so many good places you can go to get good entrees. So I'm with you that a dessert shouldn't dominate the conversation as much as it does. And it looks like you agree with Jamal Williams. So that's good.
Yeah, and I think he was being very real about it. I mean, people hype that stuff up, and it's like, man, the hype will never match like what the reality is. It's just powdered sugar on bread, bro.
Well said. Speaking of New Orleans and delicacies, it's early in the day, but do we have any idea what we're doing for RB&R Day today? A tradition that you've really brought to a good place, man. I forgot to mention to you that I saw the feature story that the TV station in New Orleans did about you. That was some really good stuff, man. Continuing that tradition today. Do you know where you're going?
Yeah, I'm probably going to Thibodeau, man. Looking at this place, Blake's Deli, that I've been meaning to get to, but it's an hour drive from me, so I haven't gotten there yet. But yeah, I that's where I'm going. And yeah, dude, the TV stuff, like the news thing, man, I've never been on TV. It's so crazy to like walk in a newsroom. You know what I'm saying? There's like 100 people working there. There's lights that you've never seen in your life. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't get nervous when these lights hit you, man, I don't know. I mean, you meant to be on TV, and it was definitely a different but cool experience.
You deserve it, man. I enjoyed the feature for what it's worth. You've done some good stuff, and that good stuff was highlighted. So I was really happy for you. And as always, we really appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks for the insight. We'll talk to you again next week. Getting closer to the football season. Maybe we'll have some more actual football questions for you next week. But appreciate the time nonetheless, my man.
It's almost here, baby. We're about to get cooking. Y'all take care.
Yes, sir. Devin Snow, a.k.a. Hold the Mayo. Love talking to that guy. He's kind of like Carter, always really knowledgeable and always really good vibes. And he's really authentic. You could tell exactly where that man is from, same city as me, although it's a different parish. So we have a lot of love for Hold the Mayo on this program. On the other side of this break, we'll talk a little bit of NFL, some more running back conversation, this time a little bit more having to do with what's going on the field, which running backs will go where will Taylor's boy Ezekiel Elliott end up this season, what are some reasonable expectations for Alvin Kamara coming into the year. We'll explore that on the other side. This is Off the Bench, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
OTB, OT.
Go to allstartoyotabatonrouge.com, allstartoyotabatonrouge.com. Man, rare is the show that we get this deep in it without talking about our friends over there at All Star Toyota. We're right there off of Airline Highway. You can find your next Toyota at All Star. And, of course, when you're talking about a Toyota, you're talking about vehicles that stand the test of time in a big way. They last forever. So it's an investment, right? And so let's say you want to buy either new or a Toyota certified used vehicle. When you buy a Toyota from All Star, not only are you going to get the excellent customer service, you get access to the incredible service department where they actually drop you off at home when they're working on the car. They text you throughout. They don't move ahead without your approval. They pick you back up. So you get all the advantages of buying from All Star, but then also because it's Toyota, this thing's going to last. Eventually, you ain't going to be paying that car note, and you're going to be chilling, okay? Because you still got hundreds of thousands of miles left on that thing. So what are you waiting for? Get your next Toyota, All-Star Toyota, right there off of Airline Highway, allstartoyotabatonrouge.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Get 3.99% financing on select 2023 models at Corval Toyota in Opelousas. And we also have a large selection of pre-owned inventory.
Into the Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hunt back from vacation. He's got a lot to catch up on. He'll probably talk some Saints training camp, some LSU football, and maybe even a baseball segment or two. Tune into Monday's Hunt Palmer Show, 1 to 3 p.m. here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
OTB OT with Hester and T-bob on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 94.7 ESPN Alexandria.
I want to be rejuvenated. I want to feel so young. RejuveMeMedical.com. You want to feel younger, better, stronger? You want to feel like Mowgli swinging through the trees? Okay, well, RejuveMe can help you get that. And I don't care. Look, man, aging happens to us all differently. I was told in my 20s that I had the T of a 60-year-old man. And then I did HRT, and it was awesome. But the point is, go in there for your free consult, get your labs drawn, and see where your body can improve. And then let them do it. Put together a plan. Maybe it's HRT, maybe it's not. Maybe it's stabilization optimization. Maybe it's a Botox. Maybe it is something more cosmetic, right? Maybe it's something less. Like, the bottom line is, if you just want to achieve your best quality of life, your best self, it's very fun, great environment, great atmosphere. Rejuve Medical. They got Metairie, Slidell, Baton Rouge, now Shreveport as well. Restore me, refuel me, Rejuve me.
Shout out to T-Bob, man. I always enjoy the lives, the recorded lives when I host. They're unintentionally funny. Shout out to T-Bob. Somebody who is intentionally funny is Dave Chappelle, and you can win tickets to see him live at the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. Friday, September 15th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Also, 104.5 ESPN is giving you a chance to see Dave for free, like we said. So go to 104.5ESPN.com to register for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the show. I believe we're announcing a winner later on today. Just a couple of segments left here. Monday edition of Off the Bench. Certainly very grateful to Hold the Mayo and for Carter Bryant for giving us their time. Next segment, we'll do Ask the Bench. Right here, I thought we'd do a quick check on the running back market in the NFL with our guy Taylor, because there's still some good names, at least names, available. The number one name needs to be Dalvin Cook, or I think it should be. He was flirting a lot with the Jets over the weekend. He even gave some comments to ESPN, I believe it was, saying that he was hoping to sign there. They have something special going on. He wants to be a part of that, but it looks like he left New York without a deal. So Dalvin Cook is still available. Kareem Hunt is still available. Somebody who did some good stuff, I thought, in Cleveland, still chilling as a free agent. Also, Taylor's boy, Ezekiel Elliott, The perception with Zeke seems to be that he was running to the ground by the Cowboys. I don't know if you agree with that. I'll let you speak your piece in a second, but Zeke is still out there. Leonard Fournette is still out there. We remember the playoff run he had with Tampa Bay. Not the most consistent NFL career, but as a whole, he's put together a pretty good one. And I think Leonard could still be very serviceable to an NFL team. And then a guy that's not mentioned as much is Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake's somebody who's a good running back, can catch the ball out the backfield, was great in college at Alabama. And for what it's worth, the last couple of seasons, there have been times where I wanted the Saints to kick the tires on Kenyon Drake and make a trade there. That never came to fruition. He's still available. Looks like we still have some decent talent in the running back market, Taylor.
Yeah, we do. And, going into this weekend, everybody was like, okay, Dalvin Cook, he's going to be the first running back signed. The meeting with the Jets apparently went well, but he has left town without a deal. Mario, the first guy that might be signed is actually Ezekiel Elliott. Apparently the meeting with the New England Patriots went very well. Schefter said as of yesterday, no update this morning, but as of yesterday, he was actually still in town. So he met with them on Saturday, stayed in town all day Sunday. That meeting reportedly went very well as well. So maybe they're closing in on that deal. As far as Zeke being run into the ground, I don't necessarily agree with that because, again, everybody's like, oh, well, Zeke lost the step. He did all this. Did he? Because as late as 2021, 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns. Even last year when he kind of split the backfield 50-50 with Tony Pollard, still 876 yards, 12 rushing touchdowns. He's not as explosive as he used to be, but he's so good at finding the holes. He's a really good short yardage back. He's good inside the 10-yard line. I still think there's a lot of value with Zeke. I mean, he's still only 28 years old. He's on the right side of 30, but I think it's bigger than just him. Mario, a guy you mentioned, Kareem Hunt, really never been that bell cow back for any team other than his first year in the league with Kansas City due to an injury, but he's a guy not a ton of tread on the tires. He's 27 years old. We know he's an excellent receiver out of the backfield. There's a lot of running back needy teams out there. I mean, are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to make a move? I understand they have Rachaad White, and they say they're happy with him, but, I mean, come on, Rachaad White cannot be your every down bell cow running back in the NFL. Well, they are if you're
tanking, and maybe they won't admit that, but just based on their acquisitions and the reason why I think they won't be as aggressive there is because they won't tell you, but they're not really tripping about winning games. Like, their roster is terrible, and I know you're a Baker Mayfield guy. Maybe he goes in there and does some cool stuff, but their roster is just awful. And maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't look like they're making any attempts to improve it.
No, they're not. I mean, because and you make a valid point there. There's so many good running backs out there. Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Kareem Hunt, Darrell Williams, who you could get for cheap, who's still only 28 years old, a lot like Kareem Hunt, never had that every down workload, so he doesn't have a ton of tread on the tires, as people like to say. There's a lot of really quality running backs out there, but I'm not sure how big the market is because there's a lot of teams that could use a back. The Chargers could use somebody behind Austin Eckler. He's in a contract year. He's had some disputes with them. Who's their backup? The Cowboys still haven't found anybody to replace Zeke. I just mentioned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cleveland just lost Kareem Hunt and Dearness Johnson. Who do you have behind Nick Chubb? A guy like a Darrell Williams, similar running style to Nick Chubb. He's sitting out there. I mean, just none of these teams seem to be making the moves they need to be, and you got to wonder why that is.
Yeah, some of these guys might be gems, not just for their teams, but in fantasy football as well. Could be a positive development for those of us that dabble in fantasy football. Some names that are unsigned that are capable of putting up pretty good numbers in the NFL. So we'll see what happens there. I did want to talk a little bit about Alvin Kamara in this segment as well. I think he can have a great season when it comes to catching the football. In his final season with Drew Brees, he had 756 receiving yards. Every year except for 2019 when Brees was hurt for 6 games, he had at least 700 receiving yards the first 4 seasons of his career. But since Brees' retirement, 439 receiving yards in 21 with 5 touchdowns, and last year 490 with only 2 touchdowns. I think the presence of Derek Carr can help a lot with that. Not just in the receiving game and lining Alvin up at different positions, but in the screen game. I think you're going to see that look a lot better for the Saints this year. The Saints had a good screen game for a really long time, and for what it's worth, I think a lot of the fan base kind of took it for granted. There's a lot that goes into running a successful screen, as you know, Taylor, not just a running back, but if you're the O-line, you have to invite the defensive lineman up the field and still not make it obvious that it's a screen. If you're a quarterback, you have to have certain indicators and not make it obvious that it's a screen. I think Derek Carr and hopefully an improved O-line will improve the Saints screen game this season, and guys like Alvin Kamara are really going to eat because of it.
Yeah, and look, Kamara at the end of the year, you're going to look at his numbers. It may not be a career year for him numbers-wise, but I think he can be a lot more efficient. I think that's the issue a lot of people have had with him in the past. You got a Jamal Williams that can give him a blow. Even a Kendre Miller, what's he going to do this year? This goes back to what we talked about earlier of the depth of this running back room. While he may not have the raw numbers, I think he's going to be a lot more efficient, and if they get in the playoffs, he's going to be a lot more fresh as well.
That's what Saints fans are hoping. That'll pretty much do it for Saints Talk here today. We'll have a lot more tomorrow as New Orleans approaches their season. We've pretty much made it through the show, y'all. On the other side of this break, we will take your questions in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat, so please get them in. #AskTheBench. Ask us anything about sports, about football, about life. We will answer it for you on the other side. One segment to go here on a Monday edition of Off the Bench, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
OTB, OT. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of WAR.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time to slip away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. LSU gearing up for fall camp, and we'll have your latest Saints training camp reports. Join us Monday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
OTB OT with Hester and T-bob on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 94.7 ESPN Alexandria.
Wrapping up a Monday edition of Off the Bench. Mario Jerez here filling in for T-bob and Jake. Those guys will be back next week. We might get Hester back later on this week. One segment to go here. Do want to remind you that the back-to-school season is here, and 104.5 ESPN and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help. It's our $1,000 back-to-school bucks giveaway. Head to 1045ESPN.com now to register to win. We'll also be awarding a $500 local cash prize. It's the $1,000 back-to-school bucks giveaway from Citizens Bank and Trust. All right, we got a little bit of time. Let's wrap up the show how we always do with a little bit of Ask the Bench. The first one comes from Wits. Please be nice in your answer here, Taylor. We know you don't follow the sport, but will the Women's USA soccer team win the World Cup? It looks like they're kind of struggling based on them not killing everybody. I took Vietnam the other day plus 6.5, and they covered against USA. So I'm going to say no. Somebody else is going to win the World Cup.
I'm going to say they are. I'm a massive soccer fan, so I'm going to actually go ahead and say that this may be my fandom showing. They're going to win the World Cup.
All right, America. I love it. Hashtag Ask the Bench. I saw somebody asking about 504 versus 337 versus 225 for the best food. And of course, I'm going to say 504. I'm biased, whatever. And I've been out to eat in Lafayette a few times, but I definitely give Baton Rouge the upper hand there. Not that they're bad. They got some good food down there in Acadiana, but if we're asked to rank them, I'd go number 3, 337, then 225, then 504, number 1.
I'm not as big in the New Orleans scene as you are. I eat a lot out here, love the food out here, but I agree with you. I would say that 337 definitely a distant third in that competition.
Got a football question here from Shoebang. Hashtag Ask the Bench. Do we see a drop off of Demario Davis's skills this season? That's a great question, Shoebang. I ask myself the same question every year about Cam Jordan and Demario Davis, and I worry a little bit about the depth at both of those guys' positions, but I'm going to say no. Those guys every year kind of surprise me. I'm sure surprise a lot of people. They're still elite. They're still the leaders on this football team, both sides of the football. That includes Derek Carr. So I'll say no. I still have faith in Demario Davis to be elite this year.
Yeah, I'll say no as well, and you better hope not, because there's not a lot behind Demario Davis in that linebacker room, at least not any proven things. You got DeMarco Jackson, you got Anthony Orji, some young guys, but no, and he might be the most important piece to your defense this year.
Fair. Hashtag Ask the Bench. What is your go-to hangover meal? There's so many options there, but I'm going to go with Popeyes. It's greasy. It's delicious. You might have to wait a little bit, but that's my go-to hangover food.
Enormous burrito from Burger King.
Casey, I feel like you may have something to add here. Best hangover food after a long night of mosh pitting?
I've never been hungover, so I don't know.
Wow.
That's my guy there.
Okay. Yeah, good for Casey. Choir boy over here. Proud. Okay. I'm just messing with you, man. That's good stuff. You should be proud of it. Still can have a good time regardless. I can get behind that. We had a good time on the show here today. Shout out to Carter the Power Bryant for coming on, giving us his insight. Shout out to Hold the Mayo as well. Always enjoy having him on the show. Coming up tomorrow, we'll have some OTB mailbag, so get your questions ready. Again, pretty much the same segment as Ask the Bench, not going to lie, but you could ask us anything about sports, about life, Cowboys, Saints, mosh pits. We will answer them for you here on OTB. That is coming up tomorrow, so please join us 7 to 10 a.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Everybody have a great start to the week.
OTB OT.
There it is,